subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Bai's strongest killing move. But given that the opponents are Natsu and Gajeel, Mo Bai deliberately kept his hand. He only used about 60% of his power, which was far inferior to Jalal, who had strengthened his power against the magic elves in the Tower of Paradise. The explosive flame blade and the iron god sword burst out from the left and right sides in front of him. Mo Bai pushed his palms in front of him and also released the power of his 3 dragons, instantly controlling his speed. The 3-color magic flow entwined and intertwined on the sword one after another, and there was a faint explosion sound. "Break it for me!" Seeing this, Natsu and Gajeel were not to be outdone, and frantically squeezed the last bit of magic power from their bodies into the secret. Strive to break through the shackles of the power of Mo Bai's 3 dragons. Have you tried your best? Mo Bai naturally knew that the two were eager to know the news about their respective dragon fathers, even at the expense of everything. In the impact of the dragon-slaying secret just now, their all-out efforts have already been felt. Mo Bai murmured in his heart, "Sorry, Natsu, you are not strong enough now. It is not time to tell you the truth. One day you will discover that the Eguner you have been looking for a long time is actually hidden in your body." On July 7th, 777, the fire dragon Igneel and the iron dragon Metallicana did not disappear, but were hidden in the bodies of Natsu and Gajeel respectively. The so-called Dragon Slayer eventually becomes the evil dragon. Once Dragon Slayer magic is used too much, the Dragon Slayer wizard himself will be assimilated into a dragon and no longer a human. And Igneel and Metallicana were secretly using magic to protect Natsu and Gajeel from being transformed into dragons. But they themselves didn't know it. Focusing on the battle again. As the 3 people fought fiercely, the ground beneath their feet had already cracked. The bursting magic power became more and more turbulent, as if it was about to tear the space apart. Many people in Fairy Tail were affected by it, and even experienced auditory and visual hallucinations. What is this sound? A dragon roar? The eardrums are about to explode. I'll withdraw first. I'm afraid they won't finish the fight and will shock me to death first. Although Mo Bai did not use his full strength. Perhaps due to the influence of the previous battle, Natsu and Gajeel still lost their physical strength first. The light of the explosive flame blade and the iron god's sword dimmed, and then they were swallowed up by the power of the 3 dragons. The bodies of the 2 people who had completely lost their protection suffered a huge impact, and their bodies were directly thrown out and hit the opposite building. Clang! Kana clicked on the countdown clock. The challenge is over. The final time is 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Mo Bai wins. Chapter 21 Thunder Gods. Laxus Invitation. Here the results announced. Natsu and Gajeel looked at each other with bitterness on their faces. Mo Bai calmed down, gathered the magic power back into his body, slowly walked towards the 2 seriously injured people, and stretched out his arms. "When you become stronger one day, you are welcome to challenge me again. It is still the same as today. As long as you defeat me, I will tell you everything about the Dragon Clan. By the way, if money is tight, the rent can be paid in installments pulled up by Mo Bai." Gajeel sighed softly, a hint of regret flashing across his brows. Originally, he had been observing the battle between Natsu and Mo Bai for a long time, thinking that he would have a chance to defeat Mo Bai after Mo Bai's magic power was depleted. Can bear fruit. Mo Bai seemed to have unlimited firepower, and the magic power in his body was almost endless. Even with reservations, each attack could still completely crush him and Natsu. "You are indeed very strong," Gajeel said hoarsely. Natsu held Mo Bai's hand and was pulled up. He patted the dust on his body, but still raised his fist in dissatisfaction. "Hey, Mo Bai, although I lost today, sooner or later I will definitely defeat you. Let you tell me the whereabouts of Eguner personally." Mo Bai smiled faintly. "I'm looking forward to it. But remember to prepare next year's rent before your next challenge, Natsu." Macau came up to him with a smile on his face and put his arm around Natsu's shoulders affectionately. It's okay, Natsu. Just feel free to challenge Mo Bai boldly. I will bear part of the rent for you in the future. Here, there is 1,000 J. Take it. Why are you so nice to me all of a sudden? Because I just placed a 5,000 J bet on Mo Bai to win, and then won 3,000 J, so you won't have to take any part of it. Natsu wanted to slap Mikao. After chatting briefly with other members, Mo Bai left the guild alone and headed to the outskirts of the Magnolia Guild. Lucy had previously introduced him to a villa that was being rented. Speaking of which, I've been wandering outside since I came to this world. It seems that I still don't have a stable place to live. I hope the house Lucy introduced will not be a trap. Mo Bai thought to himself, if you want to stay in Fairy Tale for a long time, it is better to rent a house. Passing through the rushing carriages and horses and the noisy crowds, the destination is a quiet field not far away. As Mo Bai walked forward step by step, I'm mentally planning my ideal place to live. But he vaguely sensed that 3 nearby magical powers were quietly approaching him. It seems that I'm being followed? After realizing this, Mo Bai chose to take advantage of the situation quietly. Even the pace is deliberately slowed down. See what they're trying to do. 2 men and 1 woman hide in the dark, secretly following Mo Bai, keeping him within their attack range at all times. The Fairy Tale crest is also engraved on different parts of their bodies. The 3 of them are not outsiders, but they are also partners of the Fairy Tale Guild and belong to the team under the command of the S-Class Wizard Laxus. The Thunder Gods had just returned from their mission, but they did not see Mo Bai's previous fight with Nazgajuru, so they received Laxus's order. Join forces to attack Mo Bai. Therefore, he has been following him, looking for an opportunity to take action. After hesitating for a moment, Evergreen, a female member of the Thunder Gods, finally couldn't help but ask, I still think, is it really appropriate to directly attack teammates in your own guild like this? What if the magic power is too strong and something unexpected happens? Another person, Fried, immediately scolded. This is Laxus's order. Just follow it. He has his own intentions. Before Evergreen could respond, an imperceptible light suddenly flashed in Fried's eyes, and he immediately shouted in a low voice, The opportunity has come. Prepare to act. At this moment, Mo Bai happened to walk to an open space, seemingly unprepared. For the Thunder Gods, this is the best opportunity for a sneak attack. Superior. The 3 simply stopped hiding and released their power to attack Mo Bai. Dark words. Severe pain. Light kill cannon. Evergreen also gritted his teeth and released his ultimate move. Goblin machine gun. Several magic light beams emitted almost simultaneously. But Mo Bai still walked forward unhurriedly, still not guarding or dodging. Judging from the past experience of the 3 Thunder Gods working together, Mo Bai would be seriously injured if he received such a combined blow at the same time. Boom! The moment the magic power came into contact with Mo Bai's body, a huge explosion occurred, and a black hole crater was blown directly in place, stirring up thick dust. But the 3 of them looked intently. But all he saw was a flash of lightning, and Mo Bai was still walking forward without looking back, unscathed and with a steady pace. There wasn't even dust on my clothes. The 3 of them were stunned and looked at each other, trying to find the answer in their teammates' eyes. But for a moment they couldn't understand what was happening in front of them. What? Did it miss? It's impossible. Look at the crater. It's obvious that he was in that position just now. But just now it seemed like there was a flash of thunder. And then, Fried is the most thoughtful of all the Thors. Based on Mo Bai's performance just now, he quickly reacted and analyzed. I understand. What we saw just now was just an afterimage of thunder and lightning. Thunder shadow? Isn't that something that only lightning magicians like Laxus can master? Evergreen was surprised. Fried nodded slightly. That's right. This Mo Bai probably has the same lightning magic as Laxus, and its speed is extremely fast, completely beyond the range of our perception. When Mo Bai returned in the morning, the 3 Thunder Gods were not in the guild, and they knew nothing about the magic that Mo Bai mastered. And when they were surprised, a sudden wind of flames suddenly erupted from in front of them. The fierce flames attacked the 3 of them, It was the fire dragon-slaying power used by Mo Bai, being attacked by them with their killing moves for no reason. Mo Bai would not just let them go, even if he was a mate from the same guild. At this moment, he just casually retaliated with a blow, and it had already reached the level of destruction that the three thunder gods jointly attacked. Not good. Fried felt something bad, gritting his teeth and preparing to use the technique to resist. The other two people also smelled an extremely dangerous aura from it and hurriedly mobilized the magic defense in their bodies. In an instant, a golden lightning figure shot out from the side and punched the flames hard. The fluctuations caused by the interlacing of thunder and fire have cut nearby vegetation into pieces. The three of them were just doing things for me, and I also gave the attack order. I apologize to you. A rich voice came from the golden shadow. As the light dissipated, Fried and the others immediately saw clearly the face of the person who blocked them. This was a blond young man wearing a black coat. A look of ecstasy instantly appeared on the three people's faces. Laxus, the blond young man, is the leader of the Thunder Gods, one of the top combat forces of the Fairy Tail Guild, the S-Class mage Laxus. Previously, Laxus also heard about Mo Bai's deeds and became interested in him. Only then did the three Thunder Gods under his command work together to attack and test him. Although this method of testing is a bit violent, it is also in line with Laxus' current frivolous and irritable character. After hearing Laxus's proactive apology, Mo Bai's offensive immediately reduced, and he slowly withdrew the magic power of the attack, thinking in his mind, "Soldier first, then courtesy, that's interesting. Let's listen to what they want to say." The confrontation stopped. Laxus also breathed a sigh of relief, turned around and said calmly to the Thunder Gods, "Stand back. You are no match for Mo Bai. He is a dragon slayer who controls 8 types of magic with different attributes, including the lightning system." 8 types? The three of them looked at each other. The expression on his face was almost exactly the same as that of everyone else in the guild that morning. And while they were in shock, but Mo Bai had already stopped and turned around with a kind smile on his face, and took the initiative to say hello, as if the conflict just now had never happened. "Hello." Chapter 22 Makarov's Commission. Slowly put away the thunder and lightning aura on his body. Laxus walked straight forward and looked at Mo Bai with a more serious look in his eyes. "Let me introduce myself. I am Laxus, currently the strongest S-Class mage in Fairy Tail. These three are my team of Thunder Gods, Freed, Begusro, and Evergreen." Mo Bai nodded slightly and simply responded, "Newcomer Mo Bai." As for the purpose of Laxus's trip, it was very simple, just to bring Mo Bai into the group. The arrogant Laxus has long been dissatisfied with the current Lax Guild. He is extremely thirsty for power and hopes to lead Fairy Tail to become recognized as the strongest guild and be respected by others. It is worth mentioning that Laxus is also the grandson of the current President Makarov, and coupled with his status as an S-Class mage, he is indeed a strong contender among the candidates for the next president. But he couldn't wait for that day. He can't wait to start a civil war now and force Makarov to abdicate. The recent appearance of Mo Bai will be a very uncertain factor in this civil war. That's why Laxus had the same attitude as before, trying not to have any grudges with him. Laxus paused and said with a smile, "Although you are a newcomer, I still want to praise you. You made a lot of noise in the Tower of Paradise." "Excellent." Mo Bai's reply is as precious as gold, neither salty nor light. Hearing this, the three Thunder Gods felt a little angry. They had never seen any young mage of their generation dare to treat Laxus with such an attitude. Laxus forced an interested smile on his face and asked, "I'm curious about one thing. In your eyes, what kind of existence is the Fairy Tail Guild?" "It's pretty good. Everyone is harmonious." Mo Bai still had the same attitude as before, laughing lukewarmly. Laxus looked slightly unhappy and gradually put away his smile. He frowned slightly and continued to ask, "Don't you think that the guild is gradually decaying? Maybe we need a more powerful fairy tale, a guild with a reputation far and wide." At this point, Mo Bai could already guess what he wanted to say next. "Really?" Laxus's words began to show their edge. "I'm the strongest mage among the younger generation in the guild, and now I have a strength that is not weaker than that of the old man. If we can get your help again, we will definitely be able to build the most powerful magicians guild in the entire continent. By then, everyone will be in awe and fearful of hearing the name fairy tale. The meaning of incorporation is already quite obvious. However, fearing Mo Bai's strength, Laxus still did not speak too directly. Taking a deep breath, Laxus showed endless ambition in his eyes, waiting for Mo Bai's response. But Mo Bai just turned his head and said two sentences lightly, "Not interested. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. If I don't rent a house, I'll be sleeping on the street tonight." The words fell. Mo Bai left without looking back and continued walking in the direction of the address Lucy left. But he didn't take 2 steps. He then sensed the monstrous thunder and lightning magic power erupting from Laxus behind him, which seemed to carry a lot of anger and resentment. Mo Bai didn't take it seriously and continued to walk forward calmly step by step, until the back disappeared from the sight of several people. For a long time, the thunder gods who were still staying in place saw that Laxus' body had not moved, and Bigustro couldn't help but ask, did that guy not understand what it meant? He actually refused the invitation from the thunder gods? Putting away the violent magic power in his body, Laxus said slowly, "No, he already knows it very well." "Then what should we do? Should we postpone it?" "No, go ahead as planned. There will be a festival in the morning the day after tomorrow, and the civil war will be launched on time," Laxus said forcefully. Fried pondered for a moment and asked tentatively, "But Mo Bai will be a big threat. Do you need me to find a way to trap him?" Laxus shook his head. A trace of wariness and arrogance flashed in his eyes. "No need. If we use this method, he will not obey even if I become the president. I will fight him personally in 2 days. All results will be revealed when the time comes." Other side, Mo Bai didn't take Laxus's matter to heart at all and went directly to the villa recommended by Lucy. One thing to say, this villa is pretty good, with 2 floors spacious and bright. Even if it accommodates 6 or 7 people, it won't feel crowded. Especially the large bathing pool on the 2nd floor made Mo Bai particularly excited. The only drawback is that it is a bit far away from the guild. If you are in a hurry, you need to use the wings of the storm dragon to fly there. But it is also within the acceptable range. After bargaining, Mo Bai rents the villa for 180,000 J per month. Since both Natsu and Gajil were poor, Mo Bai didn't say much. He just wanted to pay 1 month's rent when they were rich and spread it over time. For now, let's just do it by ourselves in the first month. However, the 200,000 J from Hako Mountain last time, after paying the rent and deducting some daily expenses, there was not much left. Putting it in Magnolia, this rent expense is not very expensive, and it pales in comparison to Erza. Erza has more than 100 pieces of clothing that can be used for cross-dressing. Although the girls' apartment is spacious enough, there is obviously too much clothing to store in one room. Erza simply rented 5 rooms, opened all the middle walls, and enjoyed the treatment like a presidential suite by herself. Correspondingly, she has to pay 500,000 J in rent every month. Looking at his shy wallet, Mo Bai couldn't help smacking his lips. "I still need to accept more commissions. Before I become an S-class mage, I still need to go out with Erza and others to get high-paying commissions. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't even be able to eat." The next morning, after arriving at the guild, Mo Bai did not see Erza, Natsu, and others, and was planning to find some commissions suitable for him to complete independently. But he found a short old man squatting at the bulletin board. It was as if he was waiting for himself. "President." At this time, Makarov's face no longer had the laughter that he used to have when joking with everyone. Seeing Mo Bai, Makarov immediately said seriously, "Come with me. I have something to discuss with you." Mo Bai thought to himself. In the past, even if he received criticism from the Senate, or if other guild members carried out the commission and destroyed half of the town, Makarov would always laugh it off. To make him so serious, there was only one possibility. There's something wrong with the people in the guild, and it's probably a safety issue. Maybe the president is also aware of Laxus' recent abnormality, right? Mo Bai followed Makarov to the innermost room. Lock the door. After making sure that no one was following him, Makarov asked about Mo Bai's current situation. "Have you been a member of the guild for a while? How do you feel about adapting?" Is the commission going well? Mo Bai said speechlessly. President, I only worked once. What do you think? Ahem. Is that right? Maybe I remembered it wrong. And Mo Bai rolled his eyes. If you have anything to say, just say it. After hearing this, Makarov cleared his throat, regained his solemn demeanor, and said in a solemn voice, what I'm going to tell you now involves a certain team in the guild that contains S-class magicians. Laxus and his thunder gods. Tomorrow is Magnolia's Harvest Festival celebration. According to their character, they would not participate in such an event, but they rushed back at this time. In addition, Laxus's recent behavior has become more and more abnormal. He always conflicts with other people for no reason, and even gets violent. I suspect they might do something to harm the guild. Makarov's words just confirmed Mo Bai's previous guess. As Laxus's grandfather, Makarov naturally knew his grandson's character very well. He obviously realized something. Mo Bai couldn't help but smile bitterly and said, President, actually Laxus and the Thunder Gods came to see me yesterday. What? Makarov was instantly shocked. Did they hurt you? Mo Bai shook his head gently. Laxus came to me and said that he wanted to change the current situation of the guild and build the most powerful fairy tale, and he wanted my help. However, I think the current guild is very good. Everyone is very harmonious, and it's only when they are noisy every day that it looks like a guild. Only then did Makarov's mouth curve up with excitement. His eyes showed approval, and he jumped up on the table and patted Mo Bai on the shoulder. Sure enough, coming to you today is the wisest choice. And Mo Bai smiled and then asked, what specifically do you need me to do? President. Makarov thought for a moment and said righteously, they are likely to take action at tomorrow's Harvest Festival celebration. Once I have no time to worry about it, you are the best person to suppress Laxus. In order not to cause commotion, I have only mentioned this matter to you. I must ensure the safety of my partners. After Makarov finished speaking, he paused for a moment, and then his voice became trembling, and he added, even if Laxus is my biological grandson, but once he does something to harm his guild mates and the residents of Magnolia, I will never tolerate it. Mo Bai sighed lightly, naturally knowing Makarov's current dilemma. On the left side of the scale is the grandson who was raised by one hand, and on the right side is the guild that he has devoted his whole life to. Makarov has devoted almost all his love to these two sides, but now a conflict between the two is likely to break out. Mo Bai didn't want to interfere too much. He just clenched his fists and assured Makarov, I will protect everyone in the guild, as well as Magnolia. Makarov's old face finally showed a smile of relief. Please. Chapter 23, The Civil War begins. After coming out of the room, Mo Bai began to carefully recall the details of the fairy tale Civil War and thought about what preparations were needed. Makarov entrusted him with such a heavy responsibility as a newcomer who had just joined the club, so naturally he couldn't let him down. I remember that Laxus had a careful Civil War plan, and it seemed that he had to crack it step by step. How about I just go and beat up Laxus and the Thunder Gods today? As long as they are seriously injured, tomorrow's Civil War will definitely not happen, right? Or let me strike first and wear a yellow robe tonight to become the fairy tale president. My mind was a mess. After all, this time I have to face my own guild partners. Unknowingly, after leaving Makarov, Mo Bai returned to the front desk of the guild. Is there anything bothering you? The sweet voice pulled Mo Bai out of his thoughts. Looking up, Mirage held her cheeks in her hands and looked at herself with a smile. Mira? Actually, it's not that annoying. Here, I'll treat you to some cake, don't be unhappy. Before Mo Bai could explain, Mira Jane had already placed a plate in front of him. A piece of white and delicate cream cake was placed in the center of the plate, with cherries dotting the top. Would you like to taste it? I just made it this morning. After a brief hesitation, Mo Bai chose to pick up the spoon and take a big sip. How chi? The cake is stuffed in the mouth and the speech is unclear, Mira Jane said with a smile. If you like it, come to me at the front desk anytime, and I'll treat you to something. I don't know if it's because of the sweetness of the cake or the healing of Mira Jane's smile. Mo Bai felt relieved immediately. The light bulb in my head seemed to light up all of a sudden. He seemed to have a preliminary idea about what Makarov told him. By the way, Mira, is there a magic item shop in Magnolia? Is there any craftsman who can do stone carving? Mira Jane tilted her head and thought for a moment. There seemed to be many prop shops in the north of the city. As for stone sculptures, I remember that there is a stone-shaped mage living there. Stone shape, a magic similar to Grey's Eye shape. They are all condensed into other objects using magic power. Thank you very much. Swallow the rest of the cake whole. Mo Bai wiped his mouth casually, left the guild and headed straight to the north of the city. This trip to the north of the city is likely to be related to the final outcome of the civil war that is about to happen tomorrow. Early next morning, ever since I got up, the noise in the town has been faintly heard. Even if you live in the suburbs, you can still hear it vaguely. Did the event start so early? As for the streets, posters for the Harvest Festival were posted everywhere, and the number of pedestrians coming and going was twice as many as usual. If it weren't for Makarov's mission, he would really want to take a stroll. At this time, the Fairy Tale Guild was also very lively. In addition to most of the magicians in the guild, many residents of the town also gathered. The hall was packed. In 5 minutes, the grand most beautiful Miss contest will begin here. As soon as he entered the hall, Mo Bai heard the heated discussions among the townspeople. It is said that Fairy Tale will have beautiful wizards joining this year. I'm looking forward to what they will look like. Of course, I support Mira Jane. She is the cover girl of Wizards Weekly. Without her, I would not even read that magazine. Don't you think Erza is also beautiful? In my dreams, I want to be stepped on by the Fairy Queen. I'm Miss Levy's dog. Push through the noisy crowds. Mo Bai finally saw the familiar short figure. President Makarov also nodded, his expression slightly relaxed compared to yesterday. So far, we haven't seen any action from Laxus and the others, so let's just watch the game first. Mo Bai has black lines all over his face, such a perverted old man. But as someone who has been there, if nothing else, most of the plans for the Thunder God's next actions are under Mo Bai's control. It looks good to admire the swimsuits of the ladies from the guild. It shouldn't delay things, right? Etc. Having dealt with 3 members of the Thunder Gods before, as a Dragon Slayer mage, Mo Bai naturally remembered their respective magical auras. At this time, he was sensing one of the magic powers approaching. This magic power is evergreen? Is it really here? Makarov on the side did not know this. Mo Bai, who do you think will win in the end? Mira Jane? Erza? But I think Lucy has a good figure. And Juvia, what do you think? Mo Bai? Hey, where are the people? Although he said that, Makarov was still thinking about the matter between the Thunder Gods and Laxus in his heart. Coupled with Mo Bai's sudden disappearance, he had even more doubts. I hope there won't be any accidents. Makarov sighed lightly, straightened his body, and focused his eyes again on the center of the stage in front, waiting for the curtain to open. After a while, as the music sounded, the originally quiet crowd became lively again. Every citizen of Magnolia, welcome to Fairy Tale's annual Harvest Festival. The Fairy Tale Most Beautiful Miss Contest will be held soon. Without further ado, I would like to invite contestant number 1, Kana Arapolona. Amidst the applause and cheers, the lights focused, the curtain opened, and the beauties in costumes stepped out. But when everyone saw her face, they were all stunned. Hello everyone. I am today's contestant number 1, Evergreen from the Thunder Gods. After a few seconds of silence, the audience immediately heard a large discussion. Is it Evergreen? Why is she also participating in the competition? She's not Kana either. So, all the Thunder Gods have returned to the guild. Let's not talk about this for now. The game will continue. Where is the next contestant? Where is our Biska? Makarov also had an ominous premonition in his heart. Something is going to happen. Looking at the chattering crowd in the audience, Evergreen said calmly, I am the only one participating in today's competition. There is no need to continue. Just declare me the champion. Fart. I clearly remember there were 7 contestants. Give me back Miss Mira. The audience's opinions are getting louder and louder. Evergreen smiled contemptuously and slowly opened the curtain behind the stage. I'm sorry. I just came from backstage. I am indeed the only contestant. As the curtain slowly opens, what caught everyone's eyes were actually 7 stone statues, the same size as real people, and their appearance could even be vaguely distinguished. Erza, Lucy, Mira Jane. Aren't they the 7 people who were originally going to participate in the beauty pageant today? It's Evergreen's petrification magic. Her eyes can turn people into stone statues. Don't look into her eyes. Makarov finally realized that this was a conspiracy, and the Thunder God's actions had already begun. He quickly stood on the table and shouted around. All spectators evacuate outside the guild immediately. Quick! Most of the audience are ordinary people who cannot use magic. As soon as they heard there was danger, everyone rushed to the door of the hall. It wasn't until he saw the last person leaving that Makarov unleashed an astonishing amount of magical pressure and yelled at Evergreen on the stage. A hole! Put them back to their original state immediately. But as soon as he finished speaking, a thunder suddenly flashed and landed in the center of the stage. Seeing the appearance of the visitor clearly, Makarov immediately clenched his fists. Laxus! With an arrogant smile on his face, Laxus looked around everyone, but he couldn't find the person he wanted to see the most, and he couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Laxus! Remove petrification immediately! Makarov warned again. Laxus didn't take it seriously at all, and declared to himself, "Don't worry, if you want to save them, come and play a game with me first, a confrontation game. The rules are very simple. All magicians in the entire fairy tale will fight against me and the Thunder Gods. The location is set to be the entire Magnolia. Within 3 hours, if we find and defeat us, these women will be able to return to their original state. If you lose, you want to save them? You must recognize me as the new president of Fairy Tale." The last words came out. Laxus finally showed his fangs and revealed his true purpose. "Don't take the joke too far," Makarov yelled. Finally, an astonishing amount of magic power erupted, and the originally short body continued to grow in size until it became a giant as tall as the entire guild. It's the president's enlargement magic. This kind of magic fluctuation is so oppressive. Laxus is going to suffer. While everyone was discussing, Laxus showed a disdainful smile and chose to ignore Makarov's warning. "According to the rules, defeat me within 3 hours. Otherwise, there is no need to discuss anything. I now declare that the fairy tale civil war has begun." Seeing that Laxus was still stubborn, Makarov was about to burst out his magic power to teach this rebellious grandson a lesson. Suddenly, a flash of lightning flashed in front of him. In an instant, everyone's sight was blocked. There was so much light in front of me that it hurt my eyes. When everyone regained their vision, there were only 7 lifelike stone sculptures left on the huge stage. Laxus, isn't he no longer in the guild? Evergreen can't be found either. He probably took advantage of the gap just now to escape together. This is too bad. We are not really going to war with the Thunder Gods, are we, President? After hesitating for a moment, Makarov looked at the petrified girl on the stage. After learning from the pain, I finally made up my mind. This time is not only a challenge from Laxus, but also a test for our entire guild. Listen up, everyone. Within 3 hours, find the Thunder Gods scattered in Magnolia and do everything possible to defeat them. As soon as this statement came out, there was an instant response in the guild, and the enthusiasm was high. 3 hours to defeat the Thunder Gods. Makeo, come with me to the west of the city. Move quickly. Man swarmed out of the guild like bees. Chapter 24 Rescue. Mo Bai. I didn't see anything except Mira. Makarov looked around. In the empty hall, only I am still there. Maybe Mo Bai was controlled by the Thunder Gods before the girls were petrified. In that case, I will be the only one to deal with Laxus. Thinking of this, Makarov slowly returned his body to its original size and ran outside the guild. Just ran to the door. Crack! Suddenly it felt like I had hit something. There was no time to break, and his whole body hit him. It hurts from the knock. What? An invisible glass wall. Using the magic power in his body, Makarov punched it, and a purple-black text appeared out of thin air on the invisible wall. Magicians and stone statues over 80 years old are not allowed to pass. It's Fried's magic. Fried is one of the 3 Thunder Gods who is good at using spells and word magic. Once the spell is successfully cast, the rules must be followed unless it can be completely crushed with extremely strong magic power. Makarov sighed lightly. The spell in front of him was obviously specially designed to trap him. Fried had been planning for a long time, and almost every time he passed the guild entrance, he would secretly strengthen the spell. In a short period of time, it may be difficult to eliminate it. Just as he was thinking about what to do next, he saw two people walking through the inner hall as if nothing had happened. Natsu, are you still here? I was hungry just now and couldn't go to the kitchen to find something to eat. Natsu lowered his eyebrows and lowered his eyes, obviously finding nothing. On the other hand, Gajil next to him was holding a pile of iron pots and pans and chewing them happily. By the way, didn't there be a celebration? Where have everyone gone? Looking at these two relaxed guys, Makarov suppressed the urge to vomit blood in his heart. No time to explain. I suspect that Mo Bai has been controlled by Laxus and the others. Go to the town to search immediately. Find Laxus and defeat him. Upon hearing this, Natsu immediately screamed with excitement. You want to fight Laxus? You allowed this. I'm on fire. Once upon a time, Natsu challenged Laxus many times, but without exception he was punched away. This time, he got Makarov's permission, and without asking any reason, he grabbed Gajil's arm and ran out. Walk slowly. I haven't finished eating yet. Crack! The sound of impact reached my ears. Makarov's eyes almost popped out of his head in shock. Natsu and Gajil, who were originally very motivated, actually bumped into the magic barrier at the door. Damn it, what is it? Why can't I get out? Rubbing his sore nose, Natsu became furious and continued to hit him with punches and kicks. The ceiling of the guild was shaken. The magic barrier is still intact. Makarov was worried that these two idiots would dismantle the guild again, so he hurriedly stopped him. Stop it now. I have a question for you. Ow! You two are over 80 years old too? According to the rules of the spell, magicians and stone statues over the age of 80 are not allowed to leave the barrier. According to the elimination method, it seems that there is only one possibility of being over 80 years old. Looking at the unreachable world outside the guild again, Makarov let out a long sigh. Is it possible that we just have to bow to Laxus? After a few seconds of silence, you can't say that. Hearing the familiar voice, Makarov raised his head suddenly. However, he found that the newcomer to the guild whom he had previously entrusted with an important task had appeared in front of him at some point and was looking over with a smile. Mo Bai. Wait, the ones behind you are? Erza? Lucy? Makarov looked behind Mo Bai in disbelief. Shockingly, they were the 7 girls petrified by Evergreen. The girls were dressed up and looked like they were just getting ready to participate in the beauty pageant. Looking at the center of the stage, the 7 stone sculptures are still standing there. President? Erza called tentatively. Makarov briefly recovered from his shock. What, didn't Evergreen petrify you just now? That's all thanks to Mo Bai. Erza replied softly. He showed a smile and looked at Mo Bai aside. Mo Bai. Makarov's eyes were filled with joy of surviving the disaster. Under the expectant eyes of everyone, Mo Bai then spoke slowly and talked about what just happened. According to my analysis, Laxus wants to launch a separatist war without everyone knowing. The Miss Most Beautiful contest in the morning is undoubtedly a good opportunity. After learning about Evergreen's petrification ability, I speculated that she would take action at that time. So I went to the north of the city and bought 7 one-to-one stone sculptures of girls. When I sensed Evergreen's arrival, I quietly sneaked into the girls' locker room backstage and hid. Mo Bai was so excited that he accidentally told the truth. The girls looked at each other, all blushing. They don't have the magic to change clothes like Erza, so they can only go to the locker room and use the most traditional method, taking off their clothes and putting them on again. In this case, wouldn't Mo Bai see everything? It's not what you think. I just wanted to monitor Evergreen. I didn't see anyone except Mira. Mira Jane's face turned crimson at a speed visible to the naked eye, and she shyly asked, "What did you see about me?" No, I didn't see anything, nothing. Seeing that the description was getting darker and darker, Mo Bai quickly got back to the topic. At that time, I only saw that Evergreen was about to take action, so I used the lightning to shine through her eyes, took all the girls out while she was not prepared, and then put the stone sculpture back in place. As a result, Evergreen thought it was Laxus who was acting and did not check the authenticity of the stone sculpture carefully. Mo Bai spoke carefully, for fear of saying the wrong word again. After learning that Mo Bai was protecting themselves, the girls' expressions softened, and they thanked him one after another. After experiencing the ups and downs of his mood, Makarov was even more excited and burst into tears. Mo Bai, I really saw you right, woo-woo. You were too happy too soon, President. Mo Bai still had a smile on his face, took out a bill from his pocket, and handed it over. The stone sculptures were urgently made, costing 400,000 J each, and a total of 2.8 million J. I gave my name to the guild, and the boss said I could pay on credit and only charged me 3 million J. Remember to check out Deer the moment he saw the amount. Makarov's face changed at the speed of light, as if he had lost his mind. His eyes darkened. He staggered a few steps and almost fell down. Finally, I had no choice but to squeeze out a few words from my throat. Prodigal son, you. This can be regarded as completing the mission you gave me, right, President? At least, I have ensured everyone's safety. Next, it's the Thunder Gods and Laxus. Mo Bai fulfilled his mission gloriously and was full of joy. Chapter 25. Carrying private goods? Mo Bai was about to leave the guild to find Laxus. Suddenly, he was stopped by Erza again. Mo Bai, come here. Clam. Mo Bai's heart tightened. Erza was squatting beside her stone sculpture, gently stroking it with her jade hand, looking at it carefully. But every time she glanced at a place, Mo Bai's heart lifted a little higher. This stone sculpture of mine doesn't feel right. Is there any? Mo Bai swallowed when he heard this, and instead of stepping forward, he took a few steps back. His eyes looked away hurriedly, not daring to look at Erza. But this unnatural behavior attracted the attention of other girls, and they all gathered around Erza. Why are you so nervous? Is there really something wrong with this stone sculpture? It sounds like yes. A certain position is larger than other stone sculptures. Is Erza that big? What? This is too obvious. It's bigger than Erza's. The skirt seems shorter too. Mo Bai won't bring private goods when customizing stone sculptures, right? Do you still remember the photos in the magazine? He was holding Erza out of the Tower of Paradise. The 6 girls looked at Mo Bai in unison, their expressions surprisingly consistent. It seems like he knows some ulterior secret. Look at Erza again. Her gaze was still on the stone sculpture. But this kind of unresponsive reaction directly made Mo Bai feel invisible and huge pressure. What? Now is not the time to talk. Wait until this battle is over. The battle is over. Mo Bai stammered. Halfway through his words, the wings of the storm dragon suddenly appeared behind him. Then he rushed straight to the door of the hall and left in a hurry like a jingle bell. Only then did Erza slowly stand up. President, I think the workmanship of this stone sculpture is very good. Can I move it back to the apartment? Makarov couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. It turns out that she was just admiring the stone sculptures. Mo Bai, however, had something in his mind and immediately expressed his anger. Okay, that's very Erza. Wait, she just said she wanted to move the stone sculptures away? Makarov rolled his eyes, raised his head with a smile on his face, and stretched out 5 fingers. No problem, only 500,000 J. Erza's expression gradually solidified, and she looked at Makarov condescendingly and indifferently, with a dark cloud gathering on her face. Makarov broke into a cold sweat. It seems like he is really going crazy now. Other side. Not long after Mo Bai left the guild, he discovered a man in purple wearing a helmet and an eye patch crouching on the roof in front of him. It was as if he was specially waiting for his arrival. Gray has been defeated by me. I think your end will not be much better than his. Mo Bai frowned. Bigusro, like Evergreen, this person belongs to the Thunder Gods. But what surprised Mo Bai was that the 3 Thunder Gods had not been able to take advantage of him before when they attacked together, but now Bigusro blocked the way single-handedly. Looking up at the big clock on the church, it was just 20 minutes since the Civil War began. Forget it, let's play with him. Mo Bai took a breath and finally turned his attention to Bigusro, and his magic powers suddenly broke out. After feeling the aura emanating from Mo Bai, Bigusro's face couldn't help but become solemn. Of course, he knew how big the gap was between the two sides. Originally, according to Fried's arrangement, he was supposed to intercept other guild members near the south of the city. But because he was worried that Laxus would suffer from Mo Bai, he blocked Mo Bai's path. Even if he is seriously injured, he must consume his magic power for Laxus. Thinking of this, Bigusro gritted his teeth and released the 6 magic dolls with a wave of his hand. Linear formation, slash. The cave dragon's shield, Mo Bai raised his hand to block it, and a heavy brown shield stood up. The puppet's sharp slash only scraped off a layer of stone chips. Light kill cannon penetrate. Seeing that the situation was not good, Bigusro hurriedly launched a magic attack. At this moment, Mo Bai has put away the rock shield, which is different from the tenacity just now. At this moment, his body was filled with scorching hot wind, and there was faint flame coming out of his fingertips. The roar of the fire dragon. Take a deep breath, and then the billowing flames will pour out in an instant. Not only the puppet released the light-killing cannon, even the 6 wooden dolls were directly swallowed up by the flames and burned to life. But Bigusro's face could not see the panic of losing the weapon, and he turned around and ran directly into the alley to the side. I have enough magic power to add magic to many objects and turn them into dolls. I just need to drag them down and find new objects. But how could Mo Bai not know what he was thinking? Naturally, without giving him a chance, he instantly transformed into thunder and lightning and chased after him. In a dark alley, just when Bigusro caught a glimpse of the discarded dolls in the trash can, and a glimmer of hope ignited in his heart. But suddenly, he felt the violent energy emanating from behind. Thunder magic. Turning around in horror. However, he found that Mo Bai had already approached him at some point and raised his fists. Jaws of the Brontosaurus. Thunder roared in his ears, and as Mo Bai dropped his fists, Bigusro felt like the world was spinning. He was knocked back completely out of control, and even his limbs were paralyzed and unable to move. He could only let his body roll on the ground a few times before he reluctantly stopped. The dust cleared. Bigusro's body was in the shape of a big character, lying on his back in the middle of the road, looking straight at the sky. At this moment, he finally realized why the arrogant Laxus showed strong fear of the newcomer that day. A dragon slayer of 8 elements. There is no way. The difference in strength is too big. Is it still a failure after all? Laxus, be careful. I prayed silently in my heart. But after a few seconds, Bigusro felt something strange coming from his body, and the numbness from the thunder and lightning gradually disappeared. Can you move? Looking at the part of the body where Mo Bai attacked him just now, there was no visible trauma and not much pain. It turned out to be the effect of powerful magic and paralysis. I thought I was seriously injured. Bigusro, who finally came to his senses, turned his head with difficulty and stared at Mo Bai's leaving figure. After a long time, I dug out a few words from between my teeth. Why? Oh no, you have the guild crest of fairy tale on your tongue. I won't be cruel to my companions. However, you're out of this game now. Mo Bai's voice fell from the air. The volume was not loud, but Bigusro no longer had the desire to fight. He took out the magic tool from his waist and gently activated it. Brilliant magic fireworks are launched into the sky. Mo Bai didn't take this to heart. After flying for a long time, I noticed the magic power fluctuation coming from the suburbs south of the city. There seems to be someone fighting over there. It's still early anyway. Let's go over and start a fight. Chapter 26. Why do you think you mess with her? The countryside west of the city. Fried was wearing a red robe and holding a western sword. He was looking down at Mira Jane and Elfman at the broken bridge. And this man is the strongest among the thunder gods, who is good at writing spells. The spell that trapped Makarov and others was his masterpiece. Elfman, you have already been defeated by Alba once, so you are considered out. You are not qualified to fight again. If you look closely, you can see that Elfman's upper body is naked and already scarred. Apparently, he had just been through a tough fight. Stop talking nonsense. If you are a man, accept my challenge. Of course, Mira Jane knew Elfman's character, and he would not stop until he beat him unconscious. Quickly holding his arm. Forget it, let's go back to the guild first. Elfman, however, remained unyielding staring at Fried as if he was watching a jackal confronting him. There is no way to communicate with someone who breaks the rules. Fried closed his eyes and shook his head slightly. He didn't take the other party's warning to heart at all and turned around to leave. Stop! Without Mira Jane's attention, Elfman broke free of his arm and rushed out. Fried's understatement was obviously what irritated him the most. Be careful. He has the strength of a quasi-S-class mage. Mira Jane reminded hurriedly from behind. Elfman, who was furious, obviously couldn't listen to this. Receive the soul of the Beast King. With the appearance of the magic circle, Elfman's already very tall body further grew. As his skin hardened and his strength increased, his body actually took on the posture of an orc, and he rushed towards Fried with his teeth and claws open. Receiving magic is the magic that Mira Jane, Elfman, and Lysana learned together when they entered the Fairy Tale Guild. Able to receive the power of monsters or animals in a short period of time and strengthen itself. Once you have reached a certain level of cultivation, you can even forcibly absorb demons for your own use. Facing the menacing Elfman, Fried took his time and sighed lightly, still maintaining his original indifferent expression. Obsessive. The moment the Beast King waved down his giant arm, Fried suddenly dodged sideways and waved the tip of his western sword from the air several times. Purple-black words appeared out of thin air and were immediately engraved on Elfman's arm. What? Elfman only felt pain and itching on his arm. He stretched out his hand to activate his magic power to wipe it away, but to no avail. Dark words, severe pain. The western sword was tucked into his waist. When he looked at Fried again, he found that one of his pupils had also turned dark purple, like a devil's eye. After being defined by dark words, you will feel severe pain from every nerve ending in your body every second. As soon as he finished speaking, Elfman, who had originally planned to continue the attack, suddenly fell to his knees, and his face that was originally full of fighting spirit was now covered with ferocious twists. Every inch of skin on the body felt severe pain, as if it was being torn apart. Ah! Elfman finally couldn't help but howl in pain, and the soul of the Beast King continued to dissipate, returning to his original human appearance. Mira Jane looked at the scene happening in front of her in horror. Regardless of the danger, he rushed forward, habitually wanting to protect Elfman behind him. Unexpectedly, Fried had already noticed it and had planted a spell on her only path. Mira Jane was trapped in place and unable to move again before she could take 2 steps. Mira Jane begged, Elfman can no longer fight. Let him go. Fried was neither sad nor happy, like a machine without emotions, and asked Elfman coldly, do you want to continue fighting? Even though half of his body was already spasming with pain, Elfman still managed to squeeze out 2 words through clenched teeth. Continue. When Fried heard this, he stopped holding back as if he had received some kind of permission. As the color of his purple-black pupils deepened, the magic power displayed also increased. The western sword danced rapidly. Panic, fear, pain. Several more dark words were written, and Elfman's expression became even more ferocious. But he used all his strength to hold the ground with his right fist to prevent himself from falling down. Seeing that her brother was in so much pain that he couldn't even speak, Mira Jane was already in despair. Please, let's go back to the guild now. And don't hurt Elfman anymore. Fried, on the other hand, looked indifferent, not caring about Mira Jane's constant begging for mercy, and the speed of writing in his hand did not slow down at all. The tip of the sword was swung countless times. Dark words containing greater magic than before fell. Death. The last 2 words of Fried's voice were not high-pitched, but they were particularly trembling in Mira Jane's ears. Mira Jane's pupils dilated instantly. D. But just when the dark words were about to fall, Fried suddenly felt the sudden storm in front of him and subconsciously dodged back. But he found a familiar figure with wings flying past in front of him, carrying Elfman, who was struggling on the spot. Mo Bai. The words were engraved, but they did not hurt Elfman, but were instead imprinted on Mo Bai's arm. But as early as during the flight, Mo Bai had already used the steel skin in advance. It cannot be said that there is no harm caused by the death magic spell engraved on it, and the impact caused is not much different from being bitten by a mosquito. What the hell? Gua Sha. Mo Bai muttered softly. He carried Elfman and flew to the broken bridge not far away. Mo Bai was panting from exhaustion. This thing almost weighed as much as 3 or 4 Erzas. And the moment I saw Mo Bai's figure appeared, Fried's face finally showed seriousness, no longer as calm as before. After all, this is an opponent that even Laxus must take seriously. On the other hand, Mo Bai's expression at this moment was particularly strange. It didn't look like anger, but more like sympathy. For a long time, Mo Bai finally spoke with a tone full of compassion. "Why do you think you messed with her?" "What?" Fried was puzzled for a moment until he looked in the direction of Mo Bai's gaze and saw Mira Jane, who had just been trapped by his technique. Mira Jane looked sad, and a huge gray-black magic circle appeared at her feet. The magic power keeps pouring out like a demon that devours everything, disintegrating the spell and disappearing bit by bit. What a terrifying magic power! Fried's face was horrified. He had only seen this kind of oppression in Laxus before. At this point, Mo Bai can only mourn for a minute for him. Well, after all, he's an old man in the guild. Don't you know that Mira Jane had another title a few years ago? S-class mage, Demon Mira Jane. Peak strength. Not even weaker than Fairy Queen Erza. It's just that due to some reasons, his personality has changed drastically. From the original fiery and vicious person who fought with Erza every day, he has become the gentle and weak person he is now. The terrifying magic power in his body also fell asleep. Perhaps because she had just heard the word death. The image of Lysana leaving this world emerged in Mira Jane's subconscious. She had already lost Lysana, and she could not lose Elfman, her only relative. The magic power that has been dormant for a long time has finally been awakened. Mo Bai murmured to himself, looking at Fried with an even sadder look. Chapter 27 Elfman. My sister is a man. Receive the soul of Satan. As Mira Jane's power was reduced, her attire was no different from that of a demon, completely different from the gentle waiter before. Fried's hand holding the western sword trembled uncontrollably. A fierce light suddenly appeared in Mira Jane's eyes, and she stepped forward with all her strength, running quickly, and arrived in front of Fried in an instant. Dark letter wings. The panicked Fried finally wrote the dark words for flight at the last moment and flashed into the air. The broken bridge he was on just now was not so lucky. It resisted the full blow of Mira Jane's satanic soul and was smashed to pieces. Big beads of sweat fell from his forehead. Only then did Fried realize what Mo Bai had just meant. That look, as if he was looking at a corpse. The smoke cleared. Mira Jane, however, firmly targeted Fried. Dark and mysterious Satan wings sprouted from behind, leaping into the air. The demonic claws kept biting like hungry wolves, and the attack frequency was extremely intensive. Fried, who was not good at close combat, had no choice but to block with a western sword, but it was full of flaws. Mira Jane seized the opportunity, landed a palm on Fried's chest, and shot him down from midair. Fried's body suddenly fell, and he was about to fall on the broken bridge. He immediately activated the Wings of Words and escaped from the disaster. S-class mage, Demon Mira Jane, her strength has far exceeded the previous plan. Fried's penance-style magic uses magic to create written rules to restrict the opponent's actions. This also resulted in his stubborn and rigid character, and he even had to make a careful plan for everything he did. But when the plan was ruthlessly crushed, Fried obviously lost his previous composure. Dark madness. Not far away, Mira Jane had caught up with him at some point. As the purple-black magic circle appeared in his right hand, dozens of dark arms emerged from it, all rushing towards Fried. If he doesn't use his strongest killing move at this moment, I'm afraid it will be over. Dark letters, light bomb. Fried gritted his teeth, threw the western sword directly into the river aside, intertwined his hands into a seal. A light bullet that also contains huge magic power emerged from it. Seeing that the dark arm in the wild flow was about to touch Fried, the light bullet suddenly exploded, instantly blowing him to pieces. Success? Seeing that Mira Jane's attack was neutralized, Fried had a glimmer of hope of victory in his heart. However, he was soon crushed to pieces again. When the smoke cleared, Mira Jane was already ready for the next attack. Small black holes continued to condense between her palms, and a dangerous smell spread. Soul Exterminator. Fried wanted to resist again, but found that the light bullet he had just used with all his strength had almost exhausted the magic power in his body. Despair surged into my heart. It turns out it was just a simple test. There was a major mistake in the plan. There was no way I could defeat her, no matter it was speed, attack, or frequency of shots. Boom! The majestic and thick purple energy wave burst out from the black hole instantly. A frightening, demonic wind blew up, and the sky above turned faintly dark. Although the battle zone is close to the outskirts, at the same time, the generated fluctuations were directly transmitted into the town of Magnolia, attracting many residents to stop and look here. It seems dark. It couldn't be the magicians from Fairy Tale, right? I hope they won't demolish my house again this time. Faced with such a powerful offensive, resistance has no effect. As Fried was swallowed whole by the Soul Destroyer, the wings of words behind him disappeared and his vision blurred. In an instant, it was as if there were thousands of steel needles piercing the nerves throughout his body. Under the constant stimulation of pain, his consciousness became clearer. I'm afraid the pain now is almost the same as the one I gave Elfman just now. I didn't expect it to be attached to myself now. Fried laughed to himself, completely lost his ability to fight, and fell to the ground. But Mira Jane, who was so angry, didn't seem to intend to end it there. He actually jumped in front of him and grabbed his neck, causing the two of them to fall rapidly together. The body fell completely. Fried was lying flat on the ground, and all he could see in front of him was Mira Jane's demonic and ferocious face. And she is full of magic power, ready to summon the claws of the devil on her head at any time. Is it over? Fried closed his eyes peacefully. Be ready to leave this world. But 10 seconds passed. The expected blow did not come. Fried opened his eyes with difficulty. Mira Jane's claws, filled with magic power, still stayed in the air, but the hatred in his pupils was slowly dissipating. Until half a minute later, the arms hung down naturally. Fried wondered, what does this mean? Arrogance from the winner? Mira Jane didn't answer. There was a flash of light. Gone is the horrific costume of Satan. What appeared in sight was still the guild's waiter Mira Jane wearing a pink dress. Mira Jane knelt down and sat aside. It was obvious that the battle just now had taken a heavy toll on her. After a while, Mira Jane finally said slowly with tears in her eyes, after all, we are all still members of the same guild. I just want to live happily in the guild and don't want to fight anymore. Not far away, Mo Bai, who was still supporting Elfman, had a panoramic view of everything. Mo Bai asked himself, even though he would not kill someone who was also from the Fairy Tale Guild. However, if the relatives he depends on for life are tortured like that, he will have to give Fried a good beating to relieve his anger. Mila is still too kind. While Mo Bai was sighing, Elfman beside him suddenly roared, "Sister is a man!" Mo Bai suddenly had black lines on his face. Shut up and shut up. If Elfman hadn't been seriously injured, I would have wanted to give him a slap in the face like I usually do in guild brawls. For a long time, the magic power fluctuations in Myra's body finally calmed down. Looking up, Elfman was also limping slowly towards her with the support of Mo Bai. Only then did the big stone in Mira Jane's heart fall to the ground, showing a pale smile. Thank you, Mo Bai. Mo Bai waved his hand. He turned his attention to Fried, who fell to the ground. At this moment, Fried was using his last strength to pull out the magic item and then launched it into the air. Fireworks explode, reminiscent of Bigusro's similar behavior before. Mo Bai seemed to understand the intention. Is it a signal after the defeat? In this way, only Evergreen is left among the Thunder Gods. Leave it to the rest of the guild. As for Laxus, don't keep him waiting any longer. Although there is still more than 2 hours left, there is still enough time. Chapter 28 Fairy Law Magnolia Town Caludia Cathedral. Laxus sat alone on the stone steps in front of the door, looking at the flares blooming again in the sky, his brows becoming more sullen. It's only been an hour, and 2 of the Thunder Gods have already lost their fighting ability. Who will be the remaining one? Fried. The breeze blows. Fried was defeated by Mira Jane, who had awakened her magic. The remaining one was Evergreen. The indifferent voice floated into Laxus's ears. As the Thunder Dragon Slayer mage, his hearing was equally keen. There was nothing in front of me. For a long time, the thin figure slowly appeared from the distance. Laxus watched silently until the man stopped in front of him, and then he spoke solemnly. Mo Bai, you are still on the opposite side of me. The person who came was none other than Mo Bai. Stop now, everyone just thinks you were joking. It's too late. Laxus raised his head, his eyes full of anger, and then turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed towards Mo Bai. Storm Dragon Wings. When the heavy fist filled with thunder and lightning fell, fortunately, Mo Bai summoned the wings of the Storm Dragon and activated the dragon-killing magic of thunder. The wind and thunder were linked together, and the speed far exceeded Laxus at this moment. As Mo Bai's figure passed by, his body half-crouched in front of the church door, his palms close to the ground. The earth dragons crack. The dry soil cracked open in an instant, like an ugly scar approaching Laxus. Don't pull out any tricks like this. Laxus snorted coldly, as if he was mocking Mo Bai for using too weak a skill. Stabilizing his lunge, he actually ignored the shattered ground and harnessed the thunder and lightning again to launch an onslaught. Thunder Dragon's collapse fist. Fire Dragon's iron fist. Unlike before, Mo Bai chose to confront Laxus in order to understand his strength in detail. It has to be said that Laxus, as one of Fairy Tail's 5 S-class magicians, is indeed very powerful. The force of this punch was even stronger than Natsu's before. I am the strongest person in the guild. I have surpassed the old man. Do you think you can beat me? Laxus roared, his bloodshot eyes flashing fiercely, making people shudder. If the children next door saw his ferocious face, they would probably cry on the spot. Boom! Another strike that was accumulating violent thunder struck directly at the vital point, but Mo Bai noticed it again and dodged into the air in time, taking advantage of the opportunity to dive. Thunder Dragon's square heavenly halberd, the brilliant flames of the fire dragon. In the blink of an eye, Laxus has been fighting Mo Bai for dozens of rounds. The burst of speed and frequency of attacks from both sides also consume a huge amount of magic power. Watch for the right moment. Laxus finally escaped from the entanglement and retreated to the center of the church, breathing heavily. The sound of slow pacing came. Mo Bai walked in calmly, looked at Laxus' dilemma and said, "We are both dragon slayers of thunder. I think we should all know what your weaknesses are." As early as when he was watching anime, Mo Bai had studied all the battles of Laxus. Finally, the real reason why he is so ridiculously strong is found. Similar to Ray in the first version of the Cell, Laxus, who uses lightning magic, is ahead of other magicians in terms of attack power and speed. Other abilities are slightly fragile. Although the explosive power is extremely strong in a short period of time, once the battle line is extended and falls into a protracted battle, the endurance of the magic power is another big problem. After experiencing it firsthand as a lightning-attributed dragon slayer, Mo Bai became even more convinced of this. But because Mo Bai itself has 7 other attributes, as long as you don't rely too much on the speed and burst of thunder and lightning in battle, you can avoid the lack of durability. In the dilapidated church, the roof had already been overturned by the magical collision just now. In the center, Laxus is still thinking about finding Mo Bai's weakness. Suddenly, there was a subtle magic fluctuation above the head. Although the movement was very small, as a Dragon Slayer mage, these naturally could not escape his perception. Above, fireworks exploded, seeing it all, bringing Laxus ultimate despair. Magic flare? The third one? Mo Bai also looked up, with a trace of relaxation on his face. It seems that Evergreen has also failed? The Thunder Gods have all been wiped out. How so? Laxus thought of the scene of 3 flares blooming, and then explored the nearly depleted magic power in his body. There was a vague feeling that the situation was over. Do you want to continue fighting? Mo Bai asked tentatively. Silence. Laxus didn't answer. His head was still raised high, as if he hadn't heard anything. After a while, only then did he turn his eyes filled with endless hatred on Mo Bai. If the old man hadn't brought you back to the guild after appearing out of thin air, I would be the new president of Fairy Tail now. Laxus' body was a little unbalanced as he was carried away by anger. After the catharsis passed, under Mo Bai's silent gaze, Laxus activated his magic power again. But unlike before, there was no trace of thunder and lightning in his body. Mo Bai frowned. Want to use that trick? Closing his eyes lightly, Laxus slowly condensed in his palms, and a ball of white light emerged, flickering slowly. The individual is quite small and exquisite, but it is mixed with terrifying magic power that has never been seen before. Laxus suddenly opened his eyes and poured all his magic power into them. The ball of light instantly enlarged, and the energy became more unstable, as if it would explode at any time. Fairy Law. Fairy Law, as a terrifyingly powerful super magic, is called the three major magics of Fairy Tail together with Fairy Ball and Fairy Shine. Once activated, it will cause a devastating blow to all enemies within the casting range. Previously, Makarov had used the laws of the fairies to defeat Joseph, the president of the Phantom Lord, who was also one of the 10 holy wizards, with one blow. Laxus's arms trembled slightly. He was too involved in the previous battle and poured too much magic power into it. At this moment, even activating the goblin's legal magic is a bit reluctant. The light shines unsteadily. Finally, it enveloped the entire Kalushia Cathedral. It's a pity that the casting range is only large enough for you. Mo Bai, as a newcomer who has just joined the guild, this may be a little cruel to you, but this is what I want for Fairy Tail, a guild with only the strong at the same time. Outside the church, Erza, who had just defeated Evergreen, was still looking for traces of Laxus. Just as I was walking near the church, I suddenly sensed a powerful magical force. This kind of fluctuation is the law of the fairies. An ominous premonition came to mind. Erza panicked and broke into the church, only to find it was too late. Laxus finished chanting the fairy law. Mo Bai was still in a daze. The magic is about to begin. Mo Bai, get out of the church quickly. Huh? Big sister. Regarding the coming devastating blow, there was no trace of panic on Mo Bai's face. There was even a little surprise of meeting Erza. Laxus, who was about to cast magic, naturally would not give the two a chance to discuss it, and instantly detonated the magic in his hand. Thousands of feet of white light enveloped everything, as if the entire church was placed in heaven. It's too late. Maybe it was an instinctive reaction. The moment the goblin's law was released, Erza rushed forward without hesitation and stood in front of Mo Bai. Although it was too late to bring him out safely, but at least he was protected under armor. Fairy Law. Chapter 29, Laxus Farewell. The light faded. The magic gradually disappeared into the air. Erza regained her vision. Looked down. The armor actually showed no signs of wear and tear. Mo Bai, who was protected by him, was rubbing his sleepy eyes at the moment, as if the terrifying magic just now had never been released. Are we all okay? Of course it's okay. Mo Bai smiled bitterly and reached out to gently smooth the crimson bangs on Erza's forehead. But let me tell you, eldest sister, your first reaction was to protect me behind your back. I am very touched. On the other hand, Laxus, who was opposite the two of them, had a face full of shock and confusion. Too empty? How? How could it be? I have clearly activated the fairy law, and my magic power has indeed been consumed. Why? Erza came to her senses. The scene during the war with the Phantom Lord came to mind. As one of the 10 holy wizards, Makarov successfully used the fairy law to defeat Joseph in one blow. Erza explained, Laxus, I heard the president mention something about the laws of super magical fairies. Although this magic is powerful, it will only work on the enemies that the caster truly considers in his heart. In your heart, you may not regard us as enemies. Laxus roared crazily, unable to accept the facts, and shouted, Impossible! Anyone who prevents me from becoming the president of Fairy Tail is my enemy. Mo Bai added lightly, but none of us were injured. You can fool your body, but you can't fool your heart and magic. Laxus suddenly raised his head, his eyes fixed on Mo Bai and Erza, who still had 50% or 60% fighting ability, and his whole face became twitching. His last trump card has been used. The overall situation has been determined. Laxus thought about countless endings, whether it was success or failure. There was even a plan to directly launch the Goblin Law on the entire town of Magnolia once they were in dire straits, and completely eliminate those who disobeyed them. But I never expected it would end like this. How could this happen? With endless unwillingness and a body with depleted magic power, Laxus finally straightened up and collapsed. Loss of consciousness. Mo Bai can also be regarded as completing the personal commission Makarov gave him previously. I remember that during the Civil War, Miss Gang would also come back to fight Laxus, right? Maybe it was too early? I haven't seen anyone else yet, due to the spells arranged by Fried in advance. The Guild's civil war did not cause harm to the residents of Magnolia. As for the destroyed buildings, Makarov also paid full compensation as always. After discussion, the Harvest Festival was postponed for one day. The civil war in Fairy Tail Guild was finally settled in 80 minutes. Because the battles were fought so quickly, many people were notified that the civil war was over before they even saw the shadows of the Thunder Gods. Afterwards, Laxus and the Thunder Gods were placed in a separate ward to recover from their injuries. It wasn't until he was able to go to the ground for normal activities that Makarov found them and announced an expulsion order for Laxus and a warning to the three Thunder Gods. Laxus himself raised no objections. On the other hand, the three Thunder Gods originally thought that they would be like Laxus, but in the end they only received a warning. Fried originally wanted to leave together, but Laxus stopped him sternly. I have no feelings for this guild. You are different. Stay here, well? I don't want to see a group of weak Thunder Gods when we meet again. Even parting is the same. Laxus always maintained his aloof look and embarked on the next journey alone. After leaving the guild alone, close to the countryside, under the afterglow, Laxus suddenly saw a figure walking in the distance. The aura was particularly familiar, but he couldn't see who it was due to the setting sun. The man seemed to wave at him and throw something over. Laxus raised his arm and caught it steadily. It's a can of drink. As the figure trotted over, his face finally became clear. The moment he recognized him, Laxus was quite surprised. Mo Bai. Mo Bai smiled, stepped forward and punched Laxus together. He opened another can of drink in his hand, sat down leisurely, and asked casually, "Where are you going?" "Practice. The specific location has not been determined yet. I used to be busy with various commissions every day, but now I finally have enough time to improve my magic power." Laxus looked into the distance, his eyes filled with longing for the road ahead. Glancing at Mo Bai next to him, Laxus's eyes flashed with fighting spirit again. "Next time we meet, I won't lose to you again." Mo Bai smiled. "Okay, I'm looking forward to it." They were chatting with each other until the drinks are gone and the sky becomes dark. The sun will set soon. Laxus rearranged his black coat, and before getting up, he told Mo Bai, "Remember to pay more attention to a guild named Crowtail. They have been planning secretly and may attack you at any time." The Crow's Tail. Mo Bai is no stranger to this name. The person who founded Crowtail was none other than Ivan, the son of Makarov, the father of Laxus, and one of Fairy Tail's strongest wizards. Because he had done something to harm his guildmates, Makarov expelled him from Fairy Tail. Since then, Ivan has held a grudge and founded the dark guild Crow's Tail to accumulate strength and prepare for revenge. Ivan even planted Gajeel as a spy for this purpose, specifically to deliver unfavorable information about the Fairy Tail Guild. However, it didn't know that Gajeel had been instigated as a double agent from the beginning, and all the information passed to him was wrong. Mo Bai nodded solemnly and said, "I understand. I will be careful. One more thing." Facing Laxus's hesitation, Mo Bai tilted his head and couldn't help teasing. "I don't usually see you like this. Why do you want to leave and turn your mother-in-law on?" After hearing this, Laxus spoke out the last words in his heart. "I no longer belong to Fairy Tail. I may not appear again for a long time. Take care of the old man for me." Sure enough, before leaving, the thing he couldn't let go of the most was the old man who quarreled with him every day. However, Mo Bai did not want this parting to be so sad and regretful, and responded directly and half-jokingly, "Don't be so pessimistic. If I become the president one day, the first thing I will do is call you back." Laxus laughed and cursed. turned around and walked towards the horizon, not forgetting to wave goodbye behind him. The setting sun stretched his shadow very long. Hey, there will be a magical parade on the streets of Magnolia at night. Remember to watch it before leaving. P.S. Please don't be anxious about the emotional lines of multiple heroines. You should slowly build up your favorability. Chapter 30, Being Teased. At midnight, after the magical procession that circled the entire Magnolia, the Harvest Festival seemed to be coming to an end. However, in Fairy Tale Guild, the grand dinner party has just begun. Walking out of the cheering crowd and looking at the rich dishes on the table, Mo Bai just wanted to eat. Just as he was about to reach out to grab the cake in front of him, Mo Bai suddenly felt someone grabbing his shoulder. Then there was a strong smell of alcohol. Don't go, little Mo Bai. Can I have a drink with your sister, Kana? Kana? After seeing the other party's face clearly, Mo Bai couldn't help but shudder. Kana, the famous female drunkard in the guild, is the first among the younger generation of wizards to join Fairy Tale. She usually wears revealing clothes and does not hesitate to show off her impressive figure. But perhaps because of his heavy drinking, he drinks almost all the time except during working hours. And now he doesn't even have a rumored boyfriend. Kana had a half-drunken smile on her lips. As she spoke, she walked directly to Mo Bai, hugged his neck, and leaned into her arms. Before Mo Bai could react, he felt his eyes go dark and his sight disappeared. The face seemed to be supported by two soft objects. The smell of alcohol mixed with warm body fragrance penetrated into the nose. Well, until I saw him being covered and unable to breathe, Kana then let go with a satisfied look and then took the wine glass from the side. Speaking of which, I was saved by you when I was participating in a beauty pageant. I haven't even had time to thank you, yet let me toast you with this glass of wine. Mo Bai suddenly wrinkled into a bitter face. Even before time travel, his drinking capacity was extremely poor. He would drink the first 2 glasses of wine, and he could never stand the spicy taste. That's why I even tremble when I see Kana at a banquet. What I fear most is being drunk by this female drunkard. I don't know how to drink. At this point, Mo Bai had no choice but to admit it honestly. What? Do you have to let me feed it to you? Kana refused. No. Seeing Kana holding the wine glass getting closer and closer to his face, Mo Bai looked around and looked for help at Mira Jane, who was passing by. Mira Jane also understood and walked forward to gently pat Kana on the shoulder. Stop it, Kana. Mo Bai was just busy preparing for the magic parade today and didn't eat much all day. Unexpectedly, Kana became even more excited after hearing this. That's just right. Drinking wine can help your stomach. Come on, drink quickly. Just this one glass. Seeing the wine glass being pushed in front of him and repeatedly declining to no avail, Mo Bai simply gritted his teeth. Long-term pain is not as good as short-term pain. Just this one cup. Thinking of this, Mo Bai no longer hesitated, took the glass and drank it in one gulp. When the spirit entered my mouth, I didn't feel the strong and mellow aroma that others had said, only the unbearable spiciness. Mo Bai forced himself to swallow it, and it felt spicy from his mouth to his throat and then to his stomach. Just when he thought it was over, his vision suddenly blurred, his feet slipped, and he almost fell down. Only then did Mo Bai realize something was wrong. What? What did you give me to drink? Water of life. The purity is about 96%. Mo Bai felt dizzy and his cheeks were extremely hot. If Mira Jane and Kana hadn't been supporting him from left to right, he would have had to lie down directly. I'm sorry, I didn't expect you really can't drink at all. After taking a sip of the sobering tea brought by Malaj, Mo Bai glanced at Kana, who was apologizing unhappily. But, actually, I have other things to discuss with you tonight. Kana seemed a little shy. What's the matter? Mo Bai asked. I wasn't very satisfied with the previous stone carvings. I might as well let you take a closer look this time. Who is bigger between me and Erza? Kana said as he spoke. Just put one hand on the shoulder strap and untie it as if no one else was around. Mo Bai almost spit out the hot tea. Mira Jane looked equally shocked. This is too open. As Kana's fingers twist, her plump upper body trembles slightly. Mo Bai opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he didn't make a sound. It seems that the Western Hemisphere is about to see the light of day again. Kana's movements suddenly stopped and stared at the confused Mo Bai. A look of pride suddenly burst out in his eyes, and he even suddenly took out a hand to pinch Mo Bai's red face. Another drunken laugh. "I'm just teasing you." "Ah." Mo Bai touched his nose angrily. Although there was a trace of luck, this result was already expected. But it's still dangerous. Mo Xiaobai couldn't control it just now, and Mo Xiaobai's crotch almost fell out of line. "I must have drunk too much." Mo Bai rubbed her temples to comfort herself. At the same time, in the open space not far away, Makarov, Natsu, and others seemed to have a dispute, and the sound was quite loud. "Why do you have to drive Laxus away? Even if we fight, we're still friends, right?" "I've said it many times, Natsu. Although Laxus is my grandson, he has done something to hurt his companions and must leave the guild. But that's enough. Let's end this matter." Questioning voices also came from behind Mo Bai. "Laxus was kicked out of the guild. What do you think? Perhaps leaving the guild for a short time will be helpful to Laxus's training, right? He has lived under a halo since he was a child and has always longed for a truly objective evaluation. At least now he can concentrate on improving his strength without any scruples. Besides, even after leaving Fairy Tail, the president and everyone in the guild will still care about Laxus, right? Maybe it's the numbing effect of alcohol." It wasn't until he finished saying these words that Mo Bai realized who the person he had just spoken to was. "Sister? When did you come here?" Erza smiled and said, "The civil war and celebrations are over. Now, it's time to discuss the stone carvings." Mo Bai was startled. How could she still remember this? Erza immediately said, "Where did you buy the stone sculpture? I think the workmanship is good, and I would like to customize one." Mo Bai breathed a sigh of relief. "Just in the north of the city, there is a store opened by the stone-shaped mage. I thought Erza was here to cause trouble." After getting the answer I wanted, I briefly asked Mo Bai about his condition after drinking. After confirming that there was nothing serious, Erza turned around and was about to leave, but suddenly she seemed to remember something. "Also, don't call me eldest sister in the future." "Well, actually I don't always call you that, I just occasionally." "Then what should I call you in the future?" "Your Majesty Queen?" Erza turned around and smiled sweetly, but did not answer and walked straight to Makarov, who was still arguing. Mo Bai was left alone and confused. "So, what should I call her in the future?" A few days later, in a store in the north of the city. "Miss, the double stone sculpture is expensive. Are you sure you want to customize it?" "Okay, if you want to style it, please follow this photo." "Oh. If I remember correctly, these should be the two people from the Tower of Destruction Paradise, right? I have followed that issue of Wizards Weekly. Judging from the way they hug each other, maybe they're a couple." "No, I don't know. As for the proportion of the stone sculpture, it should be imitated in life size." "No problem. Do you have any other requirements?" "Also, please pack it more tightly. I don't want others to see it. Also, please keep the fact that I have been here a secret from anyone." Chapter 31 S-Level Urgent Request. The village burned to the ground inside the villa. Mo Bai sat cross-legged on the bed and gradually emptied his mind. The mind slowly jumps into the space of consciousness. In the vast darkness, only 8 dragon-slaying crystals of different colors emitted a little light. Among the 8 crystals, the 3 energies of fire, thunder, and storm are the most powerful, which happen to be the 3 attributes that were previously driven to release the secret of dragon slaying. There was a bit more solemnity between Mo Bai's brows, and he quietly activated his magic power, feeling the resonance with the crystal. Since the first time we fought against Jalal until now, Dragon Slayer Mystery has only had 3 powers to activate, but this is far from enough. Although the explosive power of the combination of fire, electricity, and wind is quite amazing, even the top 10 magicians cannot easily catch it. Mo Bai is still a little dissatisfied. "Why don't we give it a try today? How much better can the secret of Dragon Slayer be at the home game?" Powerful magic emerged. Mo Bai focused his attention on the row of crystals in front of him. The 3 colors of fire, electricity, and wind were still the first to bloom. The other 5 crystals followed closely behind, and their dazzling lights suddenly appeared. And the brightness was obviously improved. Mo Bai felt happy and was about to increase the magic power infusion. But the 5 crystals dimmed in this moment and immediately returned to their original state. It still doesn't work. Mo Bai frowned slightly. After a brief period of regret, I began to calmly analyze the reasons. Originally, the Dragon Slayer crystal was bright, but it quickly dimmed again. It seems that there is a lack of some specific elemental power as a stimulus. For example, if the next battle takes place on the ocean, maybe we can use the power of the water element there to activate the 4th Dragon Slaying crystal. By then, the power of Dragon Slayer mystery should be even more powerful. Make a decision secretly from your heart. Mo Bai finally left the conscious space and opened his eyes, only to realize that the sun was very high. I looked up at the clock and saw that it was already past 10 in the morning. When he first entered the consciousness space, it was still dark outside. Time is fast enough. Mo Bai smacked his lips helplessly. At this time, I guess Erza and the others have already set off to do the commission. It seems they can't make it in time, as early as when he was first invited by Erza to join the team. Mo Bai has already told everyone that his time is often not very stable. If you are too late for a job, others don't have to worry. They can just go ahead and do the commissioning without waiting any longer. After jumping out of bed, Mo Bai put on his clothes casually, washed briefly, then took up the wings of the storm dragon and went straight to the guild. Kicking open the door that was shaking in the breeze, Mo Bai lazily walked through the hall and went straight to the front desk to sit down. Mila, is there anything to eat? I'm so hungry, Mo Bai. Mira Jane turned around. At this time, she was still wearing the pink dress. Her beautiful eyes seemed to be filled with spring water, and she asked softly. Erza and Natsu left for work early in the morning. Weren't you with them? Mo Bai scratched the back of his head. Well, I stayed in bed and got up late. Is there any food left? I haven't eaten anything in the morning. Yes, I'll get it for you, Mira Jane smiled bitterly. Then he took a plate of cakes that Mo Bai often eats from the kitchen. Mo Bai didn't show too much politeness. He just took a sip of it in his hand, and his mouth was filled with sticky cream. It's better to be Mira. By the way, there are so few people in the guild today. It's never been so quiet. Mira thought about it and said, maybe it's because of the end of the month? For many tasks that have been accumulated before and could not be completed, the client has more or less increased the remuneration. I see. By the way, the president isn't here either? Oh. Yesterday, when Gajil went to carry out a commission, he accidentally blew up more than 50 ships docked at Haruzian port. The president has been invited to tea by the council. Okay, this is fairy tale. While the two were talking, chirp, a blue mechanical bird suddenly flew into the hall and made a crisp chirping sound. Go around in a circle, ended up sitting on the counter. There is also a piece of yellow paper rolled on the bird's back. After coming to Fairy Tale Guild, Mo Bai saw this kind of bird several times. Mechanical gadgets driven by magic power travel around villages and towns acting as messengers, and can also deliver some orders to nearby guilds. New mission? Mira Jane frowned slightly. A commission was sent at this time. Could it be some kind of urgent task? Unfold the yellow paper slowly. At this time, Mo Bai was still immersed in the deliciousness of the cake, chewing it. But the moment his consciousness raised his head, only then did Mo Bai realize that Mira Jane's originally beautiful face suddenly lost its color, and her smile disappeared without a trace. Even her hands holding the order form couldn't stop shaking, as if she had been greatly frightened. What's going on? Mo Bai quickly wiped his mouth, stood up, and came to Mira Jane's side, reading out the words on the order form. S-level mission, urgent. Gluck village has been invaded by demons. We are requesting support from magicians. The content of the commission came to an abrupt end, and there was no further content. The handwriting is extremely sloppy. He didn't even specify the requirements or rewards at all, and was hurriedly delivered by the mechanical bird. According to the regulations of the Senate, this kind of commission is an invalid task and cannot be accepted by guild members normally, but Mira Jane only spoke halfway and did not dare to say any more. According to the description, it doesn't look like a prank, Mo Bai said solemnly. He could roughly figure out the circumstances under which this urgent commission was completed. Perhaps before he could finish writing the content, the client was discovered by the demon mentioned in the mission, and his life or death was uncertain after that. There was a long silence. Mira Jane folded the order form very quickly and put it away. Suddenly, she seemed to have made some determination and said, Mo Bai, I must go there immediately. Receive Satan's soul. The dark magic circle is activated. Mira Jane had changed into the appearance of Satan, and the demonic wings with jet black feathers on her back were waving, and she flew directly out of the guild gate. Wait a minute, hey. And Mo Bai didn't even react for a moment, standing there and shouting loudly. Sensing something fishy, Mo Bai also activated the dragon-killing power in his body. The wings of the storm dragon suddenly appeared, and the body also shot out. The guild's long-destroyed door was completely smashed into rubbish, with the blessing of the power of wind and thunder. In midair, Mo Bai quickly caught up with Mira Jane and stood in front of her. Mira Jane was stunned for a moment, and then asked, You, why are you following me? Mo Bai hit the nail on the head and asked in a deep voice. It allows you to leave your job as a guild waiter and go to the Grak village at all costs. Does this commission have anything to do with you? Mira Jane's figure stopped in midair, and her head slowly lowered, just when Mo Bai thought she was going to tell the truth. Unexpectedly, Mira Jane's eyes suddenly turned red, and 2 large tears rolled down her cheeks. Now it was Mo Bai's turn to panic and hurriedly stepped forward. No, don't cry. I haven't left Magnolia yet. If others see me, they think I'm bullying you. I don't want to become the public enemy of the men in the town. You wait until there is no one left before you cry. Mira Jane was still murmuring. After pondering for a while, he hesitated and told the truth. Grak village is my hometown. Mo Bai was startled immediately. Hometown? Mo Bai knew a little bit about Malaj's past. Mira Jane, Elfman, and Lysana, 3 sisters, have been dependent on each other since childhood and live in an unknown village. In order to drive away the demon that was causing trouble in the church in the village, Mira Jane went alone to drive away the demon, but was accidentally possessed by it. The whole arm became black and purple and twisted, exactly like the devil's arm. I thought I could live a stable life after driving away the devil. But the arrogant villagers did not regard Mira Jane as a hero at all. Instead, they discriminated against and disliked her because of her mutated arm, and even regarded her as an ominous monster. The 3 children, who were already lonely and helpless, were humiliated and beaten by everyone. Under the leadership of his eldest sister Mira Jane, he was forced to leave his hometown until he later arrived at the Fairy Tale Guild. After hearing Makarov's story, Mira Jane realized that the so-called demonic possession was just a form of receiving magic. After choosing to stay in the Fairy Tale Guild, the 3 of them finally learned to receive magic together. Mira Jane is the demon soul, Elfman is the beast soul, and Lysana is the animal soul. As for their hometown, Grak village, which was gradually blurred in their memories, several people never went back. Mo Bai really cannot comment highly on this commission. How ironic those unscrupulous people once personally drove away Mira, who exorcised the demon, and now they encounter problems, and they actually go to Myra's guild to ask for help. However, it seems that the order form was sent out in a hurry, without being completed due to the invasion of demons. Mo Bai guessed that maybe there would be no living people left in the entire Grak village, and those villagers had probably all died under the claws of the devil. This mission, just think of it as helping Mira protect the land in her hometown. Let those miserable villagers fend for themselves. Think of this. Mo Bai sighed lightly, held Mira Jane's arm directly, and whispered, Cancel receiving magic first, I will take you there. After all, Satan's soul consumes too much magic power. By the time Mira Jane actually flies in front of the devil, her magic power may have been exhausted, so she can only go over and deliver food. Thanks. Chapter 32, The Temple of Evil Spirits. The Devil's Guild. The distance between Grak village and Magnolia is much farther than Mo Bai imagined. Almost without stopping, wait until night falls completely. Only then did they barely approach the jungle on the outskirts of Grak village. As if he smelled something, Mo Bai suddenly said seriously, Mira, be mentally prepared. What? The Dragon Slayer's 5 senses are sharper than ordinary people. The further I go, the more I smell the smell of burning fireworks. Seeing that Mira Jane did not respond, Mo Bai also remained silent and continued to urge the storm dragon wings to move forward. As the two people continued to get closer, finally stopped on a hill. Just ahead is the village of Gluck. The terrain here is high, and you can just overlook the whole village. But it was only a glance. Mira Jane's pupils suddenly dilated and her eyes were frightened. He covered half of his face with his hands, shaking constantly. Mo Bai was expressionless. In front of the two of them, the village that was supposed to appear had turned into a sea of flames. After a while, jungle clearing, next to the fire, Mira Jane and Mo Bai sat opposite each other, and the atmosphere was frighteningly quiet. 20 minutes ago, the two of them walked through the village of Garak. In addition to the flames soaring into the sky and corpses everywhere, no survivors were found. Since then, Mira Jane has been silent until now. The fragrant and sizzling grilled fish was ignored and kept buried in the flames until it became charred and gave off a pungent smell. Mo Bai had to throw it away, staring at the bonfire in a daze for a while. Seeing that Mira Jane's expression had softened, Mo Bai finally couldn't hold it back and asked, "Mira, if I remember correctly, it was these villagers who drove you away in revenge, right? Even so, do you still have nostalgia for this place?" Mira Jane smiled miserably. "But this is my hometown after all. Elfman, Lysana, and I have lived on this land since we were children. By the way, you joined the guild not long ago, so you may not know about Lysana. She was a very cute girl, but she has left us." Every time she talks about Lysana, Mira Jane's tone is always filled with sadness that cannot be erased. And how could Mo Bai not know Lysana? The three sisters encountered a very powerful beast when carrying out a commission. Elfman forcibly took it in, but suffered a backlash and lost control of his body. Lysana firmly believed that she could wake her brother up, but Elfman, who had lost his mind, was so jealous that he attacked Lysana directly. When Mira Jane rushed to the scarred Lysana, she discovered that her body had slowly turned into nothingness. Since that incident, Mira Jane's temperament has changed drastically, from the violent bad girl to the gentle and considerate one she is now, and the terrifying magic power in her body has fallen asleep. Elfman is no longer as weak as he was as a child. They all thought that their sister Lysana was dead, but they still couldn't figure out why her body turned into nothingness at the last moment of her life. Mo Bai naturally knew about this, that Lysana was actually still alive, but was just sucked into a parallel time and space. But it is also difficult to explain now. Mo Bai didn't mention much, just stretched out his hand to wipe the tears from the corners of Mira Jane's eyes. "Lysana just went to another world. She definitely didn't want to see you sad. Take a rest for a while. Let's look for traces of the devil tomorrow morning. It's not their turn to rule this beloved homeland yet." As Mo Bai spoke, he suddenly felt a slight pressure on his shoulders. At the beginning of the film, Mira Jane was leaning on her at some point. Under the mixture of pain and exhaustion, he fell asleep lightly, as obediently as a baby. Mo Bai couldn't help but smile bitterly, carefully took off his coat, and covered it on Mira Jane's back. "We have to keep vigil again tonight. At dawn." With the powerful perception of Mo Bai, the Dragon Slayer, he quickly discovered the traces of the devil's actions. Following the smell, he quickly entered a dense forest. The terrain here is complicated. Be careful of ambush and protect yourself. Cut off the thorns in front of you, Mo Bai told behind you. "I see." As the smell slowly deepens, the two of them finally walked into the spacious forest, and from time to time the rustling sound of leaves could be heard. "It's just ahead." Push aside the last bush. What came into sight was a tall stone building. In the center of the building, there is also a scarlet flag hanging, engraved with a strange pattern of a twisted animal claw. This architectural style is naturally familiar to them. "Guild?" Mo Bai and Mirage looked at each other in surprise. "Rongo? And how could there be a guild in a place like this?" Mo Bai scratched his head, wondering if there was something wrong with his nose, while Mira Jane stared at the guild crest and fell in a deep thought. "I think I heard the editor of Mage's Weekly mention this sign. It seems to be a dark wizard guild with very strange movements, specializing in robbing homes. Since it's the Dark Guild, let's go in and have a sit. Maybe there will be clues to the devil inside." As Mo Bai answered, he flew up and kicked towards the iron door. Several subtle cracking sounds were heard from both sides. The door fell forward at a 90 degrees angle, kicking up dust. The quality is much worse than the fairy tale Guild's Gate. Bang! As the iron door fell to the ground, Mo Bai led Malaj inside as if nothing had happened, instantly attracting dozens of pairs of eyes in the hall. Looking around, most of these people carry swords, spears, and halberds with them, and they all look fierce. Seeing Mo Bai and Mira Jane entering, he immediately clenched the weapons in his hands and stood up alertly. The fat man in the lead had a sinister look on his face. He immediately pointed the blade of his knife at Mo Bai and asked sternly, "Who dares to break into the evil spirit temple? I heard that there is a demon nearby, and I would like to find out if there are any clues about it." Mo Bai responded calmly. Uproar. The fat man frowned and looked at Mo Bai with squinted eyes. Perhaps he was shocked by the sudden destruction of the iron gate just now. Only then did he realize that there were only two people across from him, a thin boy and a quiet girl who couldn't fight at first glance. Looking at the dozens of magicians from his guild in the hall, he couldn't help but laugh. Where did this young boy come from? What happened? You took your wife out for fun and got lost. The fat man had a lewd smile on his lips, and his eyes kept scanning Mira Jane's slim figure. Then the gangsters in the entire hall burst into laughter. This guy knows that there are no women in the evil spirit temple, so he came here to honor us. She seems to be Mira Jane, the cover girl of Wizards Weekly. Brothers are in luck now. Wait, I remember Mira Jane is an S-class mage. Can we beat them? What are you afraid of? No matter how strong Mira Jane is, I haven't heard of anything she has done in these years. She is probably a useless person in name only. There are more than 80 of us, and we are still afraid of a half-dead S-class mage. There was a commotion. This group of gangsters seemed to have completely forgotten the scene when Mo Bai kicked in the door. Mo Bai was too lazy to tangle with this group of useless snacks. The fat man looks so bad, he looks like a short-lived ghost. I probably won't be able to survive even one episode. Just as he was about to activate the dragon-killing magic in his body, the fat man spoke again. No matter how you found this place, now that you are here, please stay and become a sacrifice to Ni Shurlong. Mo Bai's eyes suddenly lit up. Honest Shirataka? Could it be that devil's name? Mira Jane heard this and nodded slightly. Maybe the devil is hiding in this dark guild. Chapter 33, you say I'm Gajeel? Then just be Gajeel. Receive the soul of Satan. As the dark magic circle appeared under Mira Jane, demonic power emerged, and she instantly transformed into Satan. The minions who originally coveted the beauty and rushed forward to use magic attacks were stunned when they saw the completely different Mira Jane. You call this a half-wasted magician? Dark Stream, raise your hand. Countless pitch-black claws appeared and swept away. In the eyes of the minions, it was like seeing a ghost. By the time they turned around and tried to escape, it was too late. Screams resounded throughout the entire Evil Spirit Temple Guild Hall. The remaining people all turned pale, looking at Mira Jane with nothing but endless fear. In the past, he only did things like robbing homes and bullying ordinary people who didn't know magic. This time, he was one of the few who fought against the magicians. I thought I could take advantage of the numerical advantage, but when I met an S-class wizard, I was kicked directly onto the iron plate. A trace of horror flashed across the fat man's face. However, he noticed Mo Bai, who had not yet taken action in front of him. The bad water in my stomach reacted immediately. Seize that kid. Use him as a hostage to threaten Mira Jane into submission. Following the order, the other magic minions around him seemed to see hope, and they surrounded Mo Bai with ferocious looks, constantly approaching. You're in bad luck, kid. They are best at bullying muggles who don't know magic. The fat man muttered words, and a magic circle appeared in his left hand that was not holding a knife. Then, dozens of iron swords, spears, swords, and halberds appeared from it, constantly enlarging. They are no different from the weapons in the hands of the minions. This slightly piqued Mo Bai's interest. Iron-shaped magic? You're quite knowledgeable, kid, but this sword doesn't have eyes. Be careful that it will be chopped into pieces in a while. As the fat man shouted, more than a dozen iron weapons were fired at the same time, threatening to turn Mo Bai into a hornet's nest. This attack also attracted Mirajane's attention. Although he knew Mo Bai's strength, he still glanced this way with some worry. Mo Bai still stood where he was, calm and composed. Just when the minions thought he was still pretending to be calm, a flash of lightning suddenly flashed in front of his eyes, and he subconsciously covered his eyes. A few seconds later, wait until your eyesight is restored. The minions were shocked to find that all the iron weapons had been taken into hands by Mo Bai. Mo Bai was unscathed. What shocked them even more was that the solid iron, which was originally enchanted, but when it arrived in Mo Bai's hands, it was folded over and over like a snack. Then he stuffed it into his mouth as if nothing had happened. He ate up all my magic. I know, brother, this person is the strongest phantom lord besides the president. Iron Dragon Gajeel. Dragon Slayer Gajeel? Mo Bai said in his heart. Ah, yes. It's also my fault that I haven't been a member of the Fairy Tale Guild for a long time, and I don't like to show off too much. These minions seem to have never heard of themselves. That's all, since I'm Gajeel, then I'll just be Gajeel. Mo Bai took a deep breath, turned the iron sheet he just swallowed into magic power, and gathered it in his throat. The roar of the Iron Dragon. The next moment, the violent energy turned into a silver-gray whirlwind and spewed out, mixed with the previously swallowed iron blade, like thousands of steel needles stabbing, breaking the surrounding air, and sucking all the approaching minions into the storm. The fat man's eyes widened, and he looked around. The magicians who had filled the room just now barely had a chance to take action before they were all wiped out by the two people in front of them. There were only 3 of them left standing in the hall. The fat man's buttocks were trembling, and he was sweating profusely. Look at Mo Bai again. Mo Bai had a bright and kind smile on his face, as if what just happened had nothing to do with him. Let's talk? You should have noticed that I deliberately saved your life until now. The fat man's mouth felt cold and his tongue felt like a knot, but he couldn't squeeze out a single word. Mo Bai didn't talk nonsense to him, but preferred the way he acted unruly and insulted just now. The roots of the wooden dragon are entangled. Huge vines burst out from under the fat man and quickly grew to be flush with the ceiling. Before the fat man could react, he was tightly restrained, almost squeezed out the oil. The fat man subconsciously tried to resist and also wanted to summon an iron sword. Mo Bai had already noticed it, and he clenched his fist gently, and the vines became entangled even more. The fat man let out a shrill howl. You have one last chance now. Tell me, where is the devil? I said it. The fat man had already been frightened by Mo Bai's terrifying strength and immediately nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. The devil's name is Anai Selong, and he is the president of the Evil Spirit Temple. Mo Bai scolded in a cold voice. Go on. Tell me everything you know about you and the devil. Yes, Lord Gajeel. We came from the Southern Kingdom, but we were all captured by Anai Sulong and forced us to loot the villages we passed. Anai Shurlong uses an extremely evil magic that absorbs human spiritual power as a source of energy. When the magic power in his body reaches its peak, it is said that he can summon moving meteorites from the sky to attack, destroying everything in an instant. There is a small town called Gluck Village nearby. The people in the town were all cursed by Anai Sulong, who absorbed all their spiritual power and died. The fat man's voice stopped suddenly. Mo Bai raised his eyes and saw that his eyes were still widening, but his body showed no sign of struggle. Come forward and take a breath. Is this death? Mo Bai couldn't help but frown. And judging from the appearance of his death, it doesn't look like he was killed by himself due to trauma. More like a mental breakdown. Could it be that he was scared to death? Mo Bai was a little confused for a while. Mo Bai, look at them. Mira Jane suddenly exclaimed. Mo Bai followed his voice and looked around, but found strangely that none of the magicians on the ground were moving at this moment. Mira Jane's face also showed great confusion. Although her attack just now was violent, it was still certain it would not completely kill those minions, but only cause them to lose their fighting consciousness. Something weird. I briefly noticed an unusual breath slowly drifting out. Mo Bai suddenly raised his head and looked towards the corridor on the second floor. At some point, a dog-looking middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes was already standing there, condescendingly taking in everything. His face was as withered as a long-dead rotten wood, and his whole body exuded an unpleasant aura. Watching Mo Bai-san is worth going crazy. Anna Shirtaka, the fat man just told me that Anai Shirlong will leave curse marks in the bodies of living people, and then drain their spiritual power to increase his own curse power. It seems that he just killed everyone. Anai Shirlong licked the corners of his dry mouth, raised his chin, and looked at Mo Bai, and Mo Bai with a grin. It seemed like he could guess their inner thoughts. They are just a group of humble slaves. The meaning of their existence is to find the best meat supplement for me. Since the combat ability is so weak, it is better to give full play to the final value and contribute to the evil spirit temple. Chapter 34, Professional Counterpart. The attack method used by demons is spells, and the energy in their bodies is called spell power, which is different from the magic of wizards. In the first contact, Mo Bai could not tell how good Anasalong was, so he could only hide Mira Jane behind him during the confrontation. You are a magician who can defeat the entire guild. It seems that the magic power in your bodies is quite high. I wonder what your souls taste like. Anasalong said slowly. His withered palms flew through the air. Reign of chaos. After singing, Mo Bai and Mira Jane suddenly noticed something strange in the sky. The sky turned sharply and fluctuated strangely. The last time Mo Bai saw this scene was Jelal's celestial magic. Immediately afterwards, there were unexpectedly a series of meteorites from the sky with green flames streaking across the sky, heading straight towards the bottom of the guild. Mo Bai immediately activated the wings of the storm dragon and led Mira Jane to dodge carefully. Boom! Meteor falls. While the surrounding temperature rose sharply, it also brought bursts of chill. Anai Shirlong sneered. Feel the devil's flames from hell. Another spell was cast, and the 5 meteorites that landed on the ground seemed to have life and intelligence. It turned into a burning rock giant several meters high, and soon surrounded Mo Bai and Mirage. Anasalong grinned and was about to appreciate this killing feast, but he didn't realize that Mo Bai also raised the corners of his mouth. Within the encirclement, looking around at the rock giants, Mo Bai could no longer suppress his inner joy. Rocks, flames. Now we are professional. As a dragon-slaying mage, no matter how powerful Anai Shirlong spells are, they can only serve as food. Attack! Anasalong gave the order, and the nearest rock giant immediately waved its burning stone arm and smashed it down on Mo Bai. Mo Bai quickly shouted, Mira, find a safe place first. I have a way to deal with him. Be safe. Due to her trust in Mo Bai and the urgency of the situation, Mirage did not hesitate. The moment the rock giant's heavy arm fell, Mira Jane immediately burst out of speed and flew out of the surrounding area. Bang! The giant smashed it into nothing. Mo Bai, on the other hand, jumped directly, avoiding the attack and landing directly on the arm of this behemoth. He bent down and opened his mouth to chew. Bite off a large piece of green fire rock. Quick victory, I'll ride on the horse and eat. Eat, eat, eat. As the body was destroyed, the overall flame on the back of the rock giant gradually dimmed. Anasalong was dumbfounded. Although he is a demon who feeds on human spiritual power, he regards himself as arrogant and has never understood the various fancy magics used by humans. This is the first time I have seen this strange fighting method of the Dragon Slayer mage. Mo Bai stuffed it into his mouth faster and faster, with no time to taste the taste, and just wanted to resolve the battle as soon as possible, forcibly swallowing the rock giant in front of him whole. Mo Bai suddenly felt subtle changes in magic power, as if his dragon-slaying power was also going to mutate accordingly. But it only lasted for a few seconds, and this feeling disappeared. The desired surge in energy did not occur. Not only that, but there is also an urge to feel queasy. This damn feeling feels like I've been fed a mouthful of history. Mo Bai frowned, looked up at the horrified Anai Shirlong with great displeasure, and spoke in a slow and cold tone. The devil's flames and stones are so unpalatable that they really make people angry. Anai Shirlong's heart is filled with thousands of horses galloping. I didn't ask you to eat it, crazy madman. Is he really human? But with the current situation, it was obviously too late for Anai Sherlong to complain. The next moment, he was horrified to find that Mo Bai's figure disappeared from the spot. At the same time, violent thunder and lightning magic came around him. Mo Bai intertwined his fists, and his pupils instantly dilated with overwhelming power. Jaws of the Brontosaurus. Mo Bai's blow was not sloppy at all. It hit a Nasalong directly on the head. His screams were even louder than the fat man who was bound by roots just now. As Anai Sherlong fell to the ground with serious injuries, the remaining 4 rock giants also lost control, and the flames on their bodies flashed briefly and then were extinguished. But the battle is not over. Mo Bai could also sense that a Nasalong, who was lying on his back and pretending to be dead, still had faint spells coming out of him. As expected of a devil, he is thick-skinned and thick-skinned. But if you don't get up again, I won't mind punching you in the head again. Anai Sherlong was frightened when he heard this. He hurriedly sat up from the ground and kept a distance from Mo Bai, shouting at the top of his lungs. Behind the evil spirit temple is the gate of Dark Guild Hades. You can't kill me. Gate to Hades? A flash of lightning flashed in Mo Bai's mind. Gate of Hades, one of the 3 most powerful dark guilds, signed a non-interference contract with the 6 demon generals and Demon Heart, and the 3 formed the Balam Alliance. In the original story of Fairy Tale, a large part of the story is about fighting these 3 dark guilds. Mo Bai thought from the bottom of his heart. The Gate of Hades, it is indeed a tricky thing, but if I remember correctly, they will not take action until 7 years later, right? Seeing Mo Bai's hesitation, Anai Sherlong thought he was afraid of the Gate of Hades, so he continued to coerce and induce. You must have heard of the Gate of Hades, right? There are powerful demons in the Book of Zerif, and the only way to fight against them is to die. I have also seen that you are a very strong magician. As long as you join the Evil Spirit Temple and follow me in the future, I will ensure that you will have an endless source of magic power for you to enjoy in the future, just like the hellfire that swallowed me up just now. Mo Bai suddenly interrupted. I'm not interested in your hellfire that tastes worse than history. Anai Sherlong was startled, and a bad premonition came to his mind. Mo Bai then said coldly, in addition, sooner or later, the Gate of Hades will be pushed by us. It's a pity that you will never see that day, etc. There was endless fear in Anai Sherlong's eyes, and his dry lips parted, as if he wanted to say something else. Mo Bai's iron fist fell first, shutting him up completely. Anai Sherlong's body slowly became transparent until it completely disappeared. This boss is easier to defeat than the mobs. Putting it among demons, this group should be considered not weak. It's just a bit of bad luck. All the spells were eaten by me. Chapter 35, Moving Towards New Life. See everything settle down. Mira Jane also returned to Mo Bai and lifted the soul of Satan. Mo Bai nodded slightly and was about to leave when a faint voice sounded in his ears. Mira, did you hear anything? Mira Jane didn't know why. It sounds like the cry of a baby. It's right where Anna Shiraka came out just now. Holding Mira Jane's arm, Mo Bai activated the Storm Dragon wings and headed straight to the 2nd floor. It was different from the mess all over the hall. Anna Shirataka's room is in order. If you hadn't seen with your own eyes what kind of abstract guy he was, you might have thought this was a gentleman's home. The crying came from the bed at the end, and Mira Jane finally heard it. When the 2 of them got closer, they realized that this was actually a baby girl who was still in her infancy. Hey, seeing Mo Bai and Mira Jane, the baby girl stretched out her little hand to gesture something in midair, and then she grinned and started crying again. Perhaps out of instinct, Mira Jane directly held the baby girl in her arms and rocked her gently to try to coax her to sleep. Perhaps this is also a child snatched from Garak village, but he didn't have time to be cursed and absorb spiritual power. This child is also blessed with great fortune. He was still discovered by us even after evading Anai Sherlong. But why does she keep crying and I can't coax her? Mo Bai looked up and down and guessed. Maybe he is hungry? Those people in the Evil Spirit Temple are not careful enough to take care of babies. When Mira Jane heard this, her face looked anxious and nervous. What should I do? I haven't taken care of such a small child for a long time. After all, I took care of my infant sister Lisanna last time. Or more than 10 years ago? Well, Mo Bai turned his gaze from the baby girl to Mira Jane's bulging curves. Thoughtful. After a long while, a faint sentence suddenly came out. How about, you come and feed me? Mira Jane didn't react at first. What? It wasn't until I noticed Mo Bai's gaze that I understood what he meant. The warm cheeks turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. How can I do such a thing? No. Do you want to take a peek? Mo Bai immediately denied it. How could I have the idea of taking advantage of others' danger? Besides, it's not like I didn't look at you when I rescued you from Evergreen during the Guild Civil War. Ah! Mira Jane seemed to have overheard something about herself, and suddenly blushed from her neck to her ears. Mo Bai quickly changed the topic. That's not the point. How about this? You hold her for a while, and I'll go to the kitchen to look for anything edible. As soon as he finished speaking, Mo Bai dodged to the back hall like the wind. Look behind you. Seeing that Mira Jane did not follow, Mo Bai breathed a sigh of relief. Start counting any leftover food from the broken counter. Onions, garlic, ketchup. His fingers swept through the messy pile of food until it crossed a glass bottle filled with white liquid. Is there milk? Mo Bai was in high spirits. He took the milk and was about to go back to the hall when he suddenly remembered something. Then he unscrewed the cork and poured a mouthful into his mouth. Bah! Fortunately, it didn't go bad. After quickly returning to the main hall, under Mira Jane's feeding, the baby girl who drank all the milk was satisfied, lay in the warm embrace, and closed her eyes peacefully. The big stone in my heart fell to the ground. Mira Jane then said softly, Shall we take her back to Fairy Tale? And Mo Bai responded casually, Of course I have to take her back. We can't leave her here after feeding her. Also, I think you seem a little... Halfway through his words, Mo Bai suddenly stopped. Mira Jane asked in confusion. Something? Kind of the glow of motherhood. Mira Jane showed a rare hint of embarrassment on her face and gave Mo Bai a hard look. Wait until the baby is asleep. A faint sound of snoring sounded. The blush on Mira Jane's face gradually dissipated, and she said softly, Could you give her a name? Mina. Mo Bai blurted out without thinking. This child is called Mina Strauss. From now on, she will also be part of your and Elfman's family. Strauss is the surname of the 3 Mira Jane sisters. Mira Jane looked meaningfully at Mo Bai, who had an indifferent expression next to her. There seemed to be thousands of words rushing through my heart at this moment. In the end, it turned into just one sentence. Thank you, Mo Bai. After everything calms down, finally set foot on the road back to Fairy Tale. The commission is completed and the danger is temporarily lifted. In order to hold Xiao Mina conveniently, Mira Jane simply activated the soul of Satan again and flew back to Magnolia with Mo Bai. We walked to the hill where we stopped and watched that night. Mira Jane's speed gradually slowed down, and she looked back with nostalgia. Seeing her expression, Mo Bai also put away the storm dragon wings behind his back and asked softly, Want to go back and take a look again? Mira Jane bit her lips and nodded. After all, this is probably the last time I will come to Gluck Village. As for the current village of Garak, it has been burned to a great extent by fire, with ruins everywhere and no survivors. It won't be long before it disappears in the long river of time. Looking at Mira Jane with a look of disappointment in her eyes, Mo Bai sighed and followed immediately. By the way, where did you live before? On the northwest side of the village. The area of Garak village is not small. After flying for 10 minutes from the hill, we arrived at the northwest corner. Follow the memory and move forward. I am even more timid when I am close to my hometown. Wait until you stop. Mira Jane originally thought that what was in front of her would be an abandoned house that had been burned to a disgrace, or even razed to the ground. But the house in front of me was exactly the same as in my memory. With its short eaves and narrow passage, it doesn't look crowded at all when 3 children live there. There are just a few more weeds around. How come? The house is still here. Mira Jane's eyes were filled with disbelief. Before the demon attack, this house was obviously the most dilapidated in the entire village. But among the ruins now, it has become the only surviving house. Mo Bai smiled bitterly beside him. Perhaps it's really because it's too dilapidated? When the evil spirit temple invaded, they immediately identified this place as an abandoned house with no one inhabited. They didn't even bother to care about it when they finally set it on fire. It was a blessing in disguise. Mo Bai slightly activated the Iron Dragon magic power in his body. The arm turned into a dark, sharp sword and chopped the weeds cleanly. Chapter 36. You two are making progress so fast. Walking in slowly. No one has entered for more than 10 years, and everything has been covered with a thick layer of dust. But for Mira Jane, they are all precious memories. Hold Mina for me. Walking to the small bed at the end of the room, Mira Jane lowered her head and took out a square wooden box from under the bed, dusted it off, and gently opened it. An old, yellowed photo lies quietly among them. Due to the protection of the wooden box, it is spotless. And Mo Bai turned his head and looked, and on the photo was Mira Jane, Elfman, and Lee Sano when they were children. Although they are yellow, the innocence and happiness of the smiles of the three children cannot be concealed. Judging from the age, it is at least more than 10 years old. On the second night after leaving the village, I remembered that I didn't take this photo with me. The next night, I sneaked back to take away the photo without telling Lee Sano and Elfman, but I was kicked out by the villagers. The photo matter has been put on hold. Looking at Mira Jane, who was lost in memories, Mo Bai couldn't bear to disturb her anymore. But I paid special attention to her expression. Maybe it's because of Mina's joining. When Mira Jane looked at the childhood photos of the three sisters, finally, he showed his long-lost smile and no longer shed tears because of missing Lisana. Let that child stay with you for a while first, Mira. I will definitely bring Lisana back after a while. Magnolia, Fairy Tale Guild. Satan Souls receiving magic consumes too much magic power. As soon as she landed at the entrance of the guild, Mira Jane returned to her usual appearance, her face slightly pale. Mo Bai suggested, "How about I hold Mina instead?" Mira Jane shook her head and said softly, "I'll do it. Go and open the door quickly." No way. Since leaving Garak village, Mira Jane has been very fond of this child and almost never leaves her side. Mo Bai had no choice but to step forward. Kick the door open. Should I say it or not, the quality of our guild's doors is still good. We're back, eh? President? What are you doing? What caught his eye was Makarov, who looked embarrassed. There are also people shouting and shouting. President, where's the beer I want? Come right away. Come right away. President, where's my lunch? I'm almost starving. It's already burning. Wait a little longer. You're so stupid, President. I have to work. Hurry up and register the order for me. It's you holding the cloth again. I haven't seen you working once in a few months. Why are you so active when I am in charge of entrustment registration? President, can you cosplay Mira? I see you are very unhappy. Makarov is hopeless. After finally finishing the work in hand, I knelt down at the door of the hall and enjoyed this hard-earned rest time. Bang! The door was kicked open by some unscrupulous guy, and Makarov, who was resting next to the door, was knocked out with his body, causing him to be chewed by a dog. Hey, President, what are you doing? Mo Bai didn't know why and asked with concern. Makarov finally couldn't bear it anymore and was about to use the giant magic to beat Mo Bai, but suddenly he caught a glimpse of Mira Jane beside him. His eyes softened instantly. It was like seeing a savior. And Mira, the eyes of other people in the guild were also attracted. In the moment he saw Mira Jane's figure, the whole place was silent. Mira Jane walked forward in 3 steps and bowed deeply to everyone apologetically, saying, "I've made everyone worried. I went to complete an urgent commission with Mo Bai in the past 2 days and left temporarily. I will be the one to complete the work of the guild waiter from now on." The silence lasted for a few seconds. What followed was enthusiastic screams and cheers from all the members, just like a festival. Mira is back. It's great. I finally don't have to eat the food cooked by the president anymore. Mira, promise to come with me next time you encounter an emergency commission, okay? Just come back. Wait. What is that in your arms? Bask in the joy of reunion. Only then did Makarov notice what Mira had been holding in her arms since she entered the door. However, the altitude is not high enough, so we can't see it at all. Mira Jane smiled and leaned down gently. "Oh, it's Xiaomina," Makarov looked over. Only then did he realize that it was a baby wrapped in swaddling clothes, babbling towards him with a smile on his face. Look at Mo Bai next to him, who is calm and composed. The worldview collapsed immediately. Makarov's chest felt tight, and he almost spurted out blood. Mira Jane had a sunny smile on her face, and while teasing the baby in her arms, she responded, "Her name is Mina. From now on, we will be a family," seeing Mira Jane showing such happiness. However, everyone in the guild quickly became red and warm at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then one by one, they aimed their hateful eyes at Mo Bai. Forehead. Mo Bai looked innocent, but felt uneasy in his heart. What followed was an overwhelming verbal crusade. "You? It's progressing so fast. Hey, Mo Bai, I was quite scornful of you and Erza because I thought you were a warrior. I didn't expect you to be so ruthless and attack Mira directly. You, my Mira, my goddess. I haven't seen you for a few days. How come you even gave birth to the child? The flowers that the guild has cultivated for so long have just been picked? I can't accept it. Mo Bai, I want to shark you. The sky is falling. Hey, can you listen to me first? This child was picked up by Mira and me." Mo Bai then told everything they had done during this trip, from the attack on Garak village, to the encounter with the evil spirit temple, to the final defeat of a Nasalong and the discovery of the surviving Mina. Everyone's expressions softened a little. Fortunately, the goddess was not snatched away. Mira Jane then said, "If I encounter an emergency again in the future, I would like to ask everyone to help take care of Mina." A group of people immediately followed suit. "Absolutely. Myra's business is our business." The atmosphere became harmonious again. Several people who were clamoring to attack Mo Bai just now immediately came to his side and called themselves brothers, which made Mo Bai feel black. Looking around the crowd, he didn't find the crimson figure. Mo Bai casually asked Makarov next to him, "By the way, Erza and the others haven't come back yet from executing the commission?" Makarov shrugged. "I came back the same day you left, but I left again." "Going to work again?" Mo Bai asked with a frown. "That's not true. It's more troublesome to say. To put it simply, in order to defeat the 6 demon generals of the Dark Guild, we and several other guilds each sent a few magicians to form a coalition. Erza and the others went to join their allies. P.S. We are about to enter the 6 demon generals chapter. Here we will add some settings for this chapter. The 6 demon generals are one of the 3 major dark guilds. Among them, President Wu is another personality of Brian, the leader member. Because of his strong strength and violent personality, he was sealed in Brian's body. When all 6 members are defeated and lose consciousness, the seal will be automatically unlocked and no president will appear. The purpose of the operation of the 6 demon generals is the sealed ancient super magic Nirvana. Nirvana has the ability to replace light and darkness with each other. In order to fight against the 6 demon generals, the 4 major guilds formed a coalition with the following personnel: Fairy Tail, Natsu, Gray, Erza, Lucy, Happy, Scales of the Snake Princess, Sharia, Leo, Gray's senior brother, Jura, one of the top 10 magicians of the Holy Saints, Cyan Pegasus, Hibiki, proficient in the Magic Information Database, mastering a large amount of combat information of the 6 demon generals, Ivan, Lien, Ie, Magical Critical Strike Boat, Chris Stingna, The Demonic Cat's Place, Wendy, Sky Dragon Slayer Mage, good at healing and auxiliary magic, Carla. Chapter 37, The Movements of the 6 Demon Generals. 6 Demon Generals. The crusade against the Dark Guild came so quickly, which was indeed beyond Mo Bai's expectation. The 3 giants of Balam Alliance are the 6 Demon Generals, Devil's Heart, and the Gate of Hades. The first to act is the 6 Demon Generals. And this battle with the 6 Demon Generals also involves many people Mo Bai cares about. Of course, we can't just sit back and watch. Mo Bai immediately asked, "Where are Erza and the others gathering?" Makarov took a sip of tea and said calmly, "I put the map over there at the counter. Don't worry, there are still 10 holy magicians in the Alliance this time. Don't worry about them. Just listen to me analyze the situation for you." Then he was about to launch into a long speech. But suddenly he felt a strong wind blowing from his side. Looking again at where Mo Bai was standing, his figure had disappeared. The door was opened at some point, and it was still wandering back and forth. Makarov sat down angrily and complained, It's really annoying. If I had known about it, I wouldn't have told him. Mira Jane smiled and persuaded. He is also thinking about his partner's president. Mo Bai didn't listen to Makarov's description of the situation at all and activated the wings of the storm dragon to fly outward. Firstly, it saves time, and secondly, it is not necessary at all. No one knows better than him what General Six Demons is planning to do. Their goal is the ancient forbidden magic sealed in the sea of gas trees, Nirvana. Once Nirvana is activated, the light and darkness in the affected person's heart will be replaced, and they may even swing the butcher knife towards their companions. However, the six demon generals don't seem to know how to unlock the seal of Nirvana. Only Jelal knows. But the magical elf power in the Tower of Paradise went on a rampage before, and Jelal should not be able to escape. In other words, the six demon generals probably don't know the exact method of unlocking Nirvana. Mo Bai's thoughts were a little confused. All the mysteries will have to be answered after arrival. Erza and the others had set off 2 days in advance. At this moment, Mo Bai could only use the maximum speed in conjunction with wind and thunder to try to join the coalition forces. Except for their president, there doesn't seem to be anyone with ridiculously powerful magic power among the six demon generals. It's just that the magic itself is a bit fancy. If the time is right, maybe everyone on both sides will get together and the team battle will be over. I hope it's not too late. As for Mo Bai's trip, in addition to supporting Erza and others, there are also some personal grudges. He wants to find Brian, the leader of the six demon generals, and there are some old scores that need to be settled. If conditions permit, Mo Bai doesn't want to see Brian leave here alive. Fortunately, the distance to the Gas Tree Sea is closer than that of Garak village. Plus, this time I was flying alone. In the afternoon, the gloomy forest could be seen from a distance. There was still thick smoke floating out from one corner. Mo Bai's face showed a little solemnity. Rushing towards the sea of gas trees to get a bird's-eye view of the overall situation, Mo Bai finally found a group of injured magicians in the border open space. There are obvious signs of destruction all around, and the grass is covered with ugly scars that have been bombarded by magic. Apparently, there had been hard fighting here before. Is it the Guild Alliance? It seems that all the six demon generals have been injured, or they are too late. Mo Bai smiled bitterly, and as he swooped down, the figures on the ground became clearer and clearer, and he quickly identified several members of the fairy tale team. Erza, Natsu, Gray, Lucy Happy. Among them, Erza was particularly seriously injured. His right arm was hit by snake venom and was almost completely covered in purple. Fortunately, the blue-haired girl next to him cast healing magic to alleviate the pain. Aware of movement from the sky, the injured coalition forces looked up almost at the same time, all alertly using their magic power to prepare for resistance. Be careful. The six demon generals may be back again, but this smell is very familiar. Natsu, who had a keen sense of smell, was the first to realize something was wrong. It wasn't until his figure continued to expand in sight and finally landed slowly not far away that everyone at Fairy Tale exclaimed in unison, Mo Bai. Mo Bai showed a forced smile. Sorry, I'm late. Upon seeing this, Erza immediately used one arm to support her body and gently explained to everyone, Don't be nervous, everyone. Mo Bai is also our fairy tale wizard, but he hasn't joined for a long time. After hearing this, the others gradually lowered their guard. Mo Bai swept his eyes lightly. To him, they were all familiar, yet unfamiliar faces. One night at the Cyan Pegasus Guild, Hibiki, Ivan Lien, Sharia of the Serpent Scale, Gray's senior brother Leo, Jura, the top 10 magicians of the Holy Saints, and Wendy, the dragon slayer in the sky at the Demon Cat's place, and her flying cat companion Carla. Looking at the blue-haired girl Wendy who was using healing magic to detoxify Erza, Mo Bai couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He walked slowly to them and gently leaned down to take a look. Does it still hurt? Erza smiled palely and said hoarsely, With Wendy's healing magic, it's much better. But at this point, Erza changed the topic and her expression became difficult. We have already fought against the six demon generals just now, and each of them is very strong. I see. Mo Bai breathed a sigh of relief. He stood up and walked to the center of the coalition again, and spoke in a deep voice. I have all the information about the 6 demon generals. Follow my arrangements. I will find a way to defeat them one by one. The words just fell, almost without a pause. He was immediately doubted and opposed by others. Please wait a moment. We just failed after learning the information about the 6 demon generals. Yes, Hibiki's magic information database has acquired their magic, but they are too powerful. Could it be that you know the 6 demon generals better than the magic information database? Gray's senior brother Leo reacted the most strongly and looked at Mo Bai more and more unkindly. Even if a battle plan needs to be formulated, it should be made by Mr. Jula. We are not going to hand our lives over to an inferior newcomer. Leo has always pursued great power. Among the people present, the only one who could convince him with his strength was Jula, the top 10 magicians. Where did this Mo Bai come from? Erza was about to explain for Mo Bai when she saw this. But he saw Mo Bai gently shaking his head towards him, indicating to stop. Erza could only give up. Mo Bai expected Mo Bai to be distrustful of other members of the coalition. After all, it was the first time we met. If you want the coalition forces to be convinced and obey your command, you have to speak with true strength. Mo Bai looked calm, took 3 steps, and walked straight to the middle of Leo and Jula. What do you want to do? Leo narrowed his eyes slightly and made an ice-shaped gesture vigilantly, as if he was on guard against Mo Bai's sudden attack. The attention of the rest of the people was also attracted, as if a conflict was about to break out at any time. For a moment, the atmosphere was tense. Chapter 38 Bird walking is prohibited. Mo Bai said nothing. His eyes suddenly burst into golden light. His pupils were submerged in it, and 8 different colors of magic arrays bloomed under his feet. The majestic energy surged around and suddenly exploded, its momentum reaching into the sky, as if it was about to break a corner of the sky. Everyone even heard a faint dragon roar. Exploding magic power to release pressure is undoubtedly the best way to prove one's strength. Although Mo Bai can only use 3 dragon-slaying powers at the same time when he performs the secret of dragon slaying. But if it is just for display and not used for attack, it is really not too difficult to release 8 kinds of magic power at the same time. Jula and Leo had just been closest to Mo Bai, so they were undoubtedly the hardest hit, and they also had a completely intuitive understanding of Mo Bai's strength. They have only seen this kind of coercion from a few of the top 10 magicians. In any guild, he can be regarded as the top powerhouse. A long while, Leo then put away the disbelief on his face and said awkwardly, "You are indeed very strong." After saying that, Leo turned his head and looked at Jula. After all, Jura is the #1 person in the Snake Princess scales, and Leo, who has always been flamboyant, is also used to listening to him. Jula looked solemn. It seems that in terms of magic power storage alone, Your Excellency, Mo Bai's strength will not be inferior to mine. If you really have a plan to defeat the enemy, I am willing to obey your command. The tone was very sincere. Mo Bai couldn't help but feel a little more fond of Jula, a humble and strong man. The first battle with the 6 demon generals has been frustrated, and everyone needs to regroup. I agree to let Brother Mo Bai take over this important task. Man, following Snake Princess scale, the leader of Cyan Pegasus also expressed his support overnight. After speaking, he also winked at Mo Bai. Mo Bai almost vomited out his overnight meal. Although Achiya claims to be the strongest among the Cyan Pegasus, his appearance is really not flattering. In terms of level of obscenity, even Anai Shurlong is worse than him. The Fairy Tail team already has full trust in Mo Bai and will naturally not object. As for Wendy and Carla, they chose to be consistent with most people. It was passed unanimously. Mo Bai smiled calmly. Since everyone has no objections, then I will tell you what I think. Right now, the 6 demon generals have not found Nirvana. They are likely to disperse to various parts of the Gas Tree Sea to search separately. It is convenient for us to group up and annihilate him. On the way here, I passed an area with gray smoke. It was probably the half-crashed magic crit ship Krina Stingna after being hit by the 6 demon generals. Ivan, and Lien of the Cyan Pegasus, plus Leo, Your mission is to go back the way you came to find Christina and try to restart it. Mr. Jura of the Serpent Scale is the strongest. You and Sharia will search the east side. Natsu, Lucy, and the Cyan Pegasus Hibiki will go to the west side. Erza hasn't fully recovered from the poisoning. Wendy, Happy, Carla, you stay here and take care of her for the time being. It's easier to fly away if you are in danger. Mo Bai deployed the tasks one by one. The only one left behind was the ice-shaped pervert in his team, who took off his clothes whenever he disagreed. Hey, what about me? Gray protested, dissatisfied. Gray, whether the crusade against the 6 demon generals can be successfully completed today will all depend on you later. You and I will set off in a straight line. After Mo Bai finished speaking, he gave Gray a meaningful look. Everyone looked at each other, wondering what kind of medicine he was selling in the gourd. Even Gray himself was scratching his head and wondering, "What do you mean it's all up to me?" Mo Bai glanced over again and warned, "The other most important point. Ideally, Nirvana would not be so easily unsealed by the 6 demon generals. But we do not rule out the possibility of some accidents. Once Nirvana really starts, you must control your personal emotions. People who are on the border between light and darkness are the most vulnerable to erosion. Action. The dense gas woods blocked the sky and the sun, coupled with the strange magic fluctuations, prevented Mo Bai from flying above. Instead, he chose to run forward with Gray, trying to search for traces of the 6 demon generals. A long while, after thinking about it all the way, Gray still couldn't figure out what Mo Bai's plan meant and finally couldn't help but ask, "I still don't understand. You and Jula are much stronger than us. Why do you say I am the key to this operation?" Mo Bai gradually slowed down, but he did not answer directly, but asked instead, "Do you know who the president of the 6 demon generals is? Is that the man named Brian? He has a strange skull staff in his hand, and there are some strange black stripes on his face." Recalling the scene of the first battle with the 6 demon generals, Gray still had some impressions. Mo Bai shook his head firmly. "Not entirely right." "What's the meaning?" Gray was confused. Mo Bai explained, "Brian has dual personalities, one of which is the personality we see now that loves knowledge and magic, and his strength is similar to yours. And the other personality is the inner personality that is bent on destroying everything in front of you. The real president of the 6 demon generals is Wu. His strength is even higher than Jura. The power of Wu is so terrifying that even Brian himself cannot fully control it. So he used some special method to seal Wu in his body." Thinking back to Brian's weird face, Gray suddenly realized, it turns out those black stripes on Brian's face are seals. Mo Bai nodded and responded affirmatively. "Yes, the black stripes of the 6 seals correspond to the prayer wishes of the 6 members. When the 6 prayers disappear, the seal is lifted, and Wu will appear instead of Brian." Gray couldn't help but interrupt. "In this case, no matter whether they defeat the current 6 demon generals or not, they're already invincible. According to Gray's idea, if the 6 demons win, the crusade will fail. The 6 demons lost, no guild leader showed up, and then all the remaining people were wiped out. This crusade also failed. You still haven't turned the corner." Mo Bai knocked Gray on the head helplessly. "Why do I ask you to act with me? Isn't it because I value your ice modeling magic? As long as we work together to capture one of the 6 demon generals alive and use your ice prison to control his actions while still having the consciousness to fight, his prayers will not disappear. In this way, President Wu will not show up. A fierce battle can also be avoided. In other words, as long as one of them still has fighting consciousness, I alone have enough ability to sweep away the remaining 5. Mo Bai finally revealed his plan. He is not afraid of Chairman Wu. Even if something unexpected happens and Wu is released, Mo Bai will stand in front of him without hesitation. It's just that sometimes you can choose not to take risks when fighting unnecessary battles. As for why he chose Gray's Eyes Prison instead of using his own wooden dragon entangle, it's actually very simple. Root entanglement is too limited and can only tie the opponent in place. The Ice Prison is much more convenient. You can capture an unlucky guy from the 6 demon generals alive and put him directly inside. Put it under your nose and take it wherever you want without worrying about escaping. Gray finally understood why Mo Bai said he would be the key to this battle. At the same time, he also extended his thumbs up and praised sincerely. What a great plan. It's really yours. Mo Bai's expression became unnatural. His eyes slowly moved downward. The smile on his face gradually solidified. Gray, put on your pants. You can take off your shirt, but walking around is not very civilized. Ah, when did you take it off? Gray then picked up the pants next to him and put them on again. It has become an instinctive reaction for him to take off his clothes when he gets excited. Gray coughed twice awkwardly and then asked, Ahem, but then again, how do you know those things about Brian? I remember that the Cyan Pegasus has information database magic, but they couldn't find out how detailed you are. Well, we'll talk about it later when we have a chance. Anyway, listen to my orders later and remember to capture them alive. Mo Bai was evasive and changed the topic. You can't tell Gray that you've traveled through time, right? Regain speed on the road. Not long after walking this time, Mo Bai felt a magical energy nearby that he had never seen before. Erratic, sometimes in front, sometimes suddenly flashing behind. Stop! Stopping Gray next to him. Mo Bai stopped in an open space and watched carefully. And that energy finally stayed on the thick branches at the top of the gas tree in the distance. Mo Bai raised his eyes and immediately recognized the other party's identity. It's Lisa, one of the 6 demon generals. It seems we are lucky. We should be the first team to fight against the 6 demon generals. Unlike Mo Bai, Gray doesn't have such strong senses. Ah, why didn't I see it? Mo Bai whispered. It's not important. Lisa's magic is quite special. It will follow my instructions later. On the gas tree, Lisa has yellow comb hair, a pointed and long nose, and gray goggles covering her eyes, resembling a goblin wearing human skin. At the moment he is squatting on the tree, when she realized that Mo Bai and the 2 had discovered her, Lisa did not show any panic, but instead laughed with interest. I am very fast. 2 slow goblins. Can you catch up with me? Chapter 39. Capture the 6 demon generals alive. Will your ice cube stay alive? In Lisa's sight, Mo Bai and Gray whispered a few words, and then some arguments seemed to break out, and they even started insulting each other. The indignant Gray turned around and ran back. Lisa sneered, jumped down from the branch, appeared in front of Mo Bai, and teased. What? There was internal strife before the fight even started? Mo Bai frowned, his words full of disgust towards Gray. That naked BD with no eyes. I told him countless times that the 6 demon generals are not far away, but I still don't believe him. But I am enough to deal with you. As he spoke, the dragon-slaying magic power condensed into wings from behind, and the wind swept up large pieces of grass and trees, rushing towards Lisa first. Too slow, Lisa scoffed. At the moment when the collision was about to occur, Lisa's figure mysteriously disappeared on the spot. What? Mo Bai opened his mouth into an O shape and kept it there for 5 seconds, making an extremely exaggerated expression of shock. Lisa's vanity was greatly satisfied, and she shouted wildly, You can't catch up with me anymore? If you go at the next speed, your soul may be thrown out. Hell motorcycle.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.